Marvel, it starts when it links with a great clock of the Super God Academy. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 351 The Truth That Shocked the God of Death Carl. Death Carl is a very thoughtful person, a person with very careful plans. He guessed all the results, and even thought that he would be swallowed. But even if he did everything well and had enough psychological preparation, it would be difficult for him to face this final moment. Especially when Death Carl knew that this kind of thing had been reincarnated countless times, but the result of each time was a repetition of the last time. Maybe, I can see a different future from other places. Death Carl turned his gaze to Li Qingyun. At this moment, he suddenly felt that maybe Li Qingyun was the one who could really lead him to appreciate the highest mysteries of the universe. Because Li Qingyun was full of various mysteries, and the mysteries were deeper than those of the void creatures. The student of the space principle, but the space principle had never received a student like Li Qingyun in the tens of thousands of years before entering the higher dimension for exploration. Moreover, from the information read by Death Carl from Li Qingyun, it can be inferred that Li Qingyun's age should be no more than a few dozen years old at most. But the headmaster of space had already entered a higher dimension to explore thousands of years ago. Now it is very difficult to even have a conversation with him. How could he teach such a powerful student under such circumstances? Moreover, the God of Death Carl clearly saw many powers and abilities from Li Qingyun that even the headmaster of space had never mastered. All of this fully illustrates a problem, that is, Li Qingyun is very likely not a student of the headmaster of space, but is involved in something with a higher dimension. Otherwise, how to explain Li Qingyun's dimensional technology now? Wow, you actually have such high expectations of me. Li Qingyun relied on the upgraded ability of chaos magic and soon felt what the God of Death Carl was thinking at the moment. This is a kind of information leakage caused by emotional fluctuations from the depths of the soul that can be perceived naturally. Especially just now, after the God of Death Carl took the initiative to show his loopholes, Li Qingyun directly locked the emotional signals of the God of Death Carl based on this loophole. The so-called defense system can be easily broken by others after it is broken once. Now the God of Death Carl is in such a situation. Damn it, can you two at least show some respect to me? The void creature was helpless, because it was not the first time that it was ignored by the Death God Carl and Li Qingyun. The two were just chatting there, completely treating it as air, dispensable, and not respecting it at all. Sorry, after you appeared, after you showed your true power, you are no longer important. Li Qingyun really didn't take this void creature seriously. The ability of the void creature is to directly attack the soul of a living being, so that his soul is extracted and becomes the food of the void creature. Although the power of the void creature is very strong, it is so strong that it can directly crush the entire super god universe. But for Li Qingyun, this is not a big problem. In Li Qingyun's mind, he already has a complete way to deal with this void creature. Since there is already a way to eliminate it, everything else doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when to start. As for the Death God Carl, he doesn't care anymore. Everything the void creature said after it came out has shown that its true existence is not about high-end technology and strange mysteries. It is just a savage creature with strange powers. Moreover, he will eventually be devoured by the void creature, just like the countless reincarnations that have happened in the past. Although the God of Death Carl has uploaded his super gene data to a higher dimension, his soul actually still exists in this universe. Through the signal, the void creature can directly find the location where he finally uploaded the super gene data. This is unavoidable, because if the God of Death Carl wants to project his data through a phantom, he must transmit it through a signal. Even if the signal has been upgraded to the level of void energy, the void creature can still find it. Since the ending is already determined, the God of Death Carl naturally becomes indifferent. The two people don't care, so the void creature is naturally ignored by them. Asshole, the void creature was completely enraged. It controlled countless tentacles and slapped towards Li Qingyun at the fastest speed. It wanted to beat Li Qingyun into a ball of meat paste, and to destroy this abominable life in the main biological world. However, this time the attack was almost exactly the same as before. When the tentacles fell, they did not touch Li Qingyun's body at all, as if it was just a virtual projection standing there. No, this is impossible. I clearly feel that your life breath is real. How could it not cause any harm to you? The void creature was stunned. It couldn't figure out why this happened. Why was this person standing in front of it, and even its special soul perception detected that Li Qingyun was there, so why did it attack him at all? What you attack is everything from the main biological world, even the soul body. You can attack it directly, but if this person is not standing in the reality from the beginning, how can you attack him? Li Qingyun asked back. But, I can clearly feel that you are there. The void creature was even more confused. It clearly felt it, so how could it say that Li Qingyun was not on the reality? It's similar to a dimensional space projection, very similar to an illusion, but more. Death Carl was halfway through his words, but suddenly felt that his guess was wrong. This phenomenon could not be fully explained with the knowledge he had. Because, if this was a dimensional space projection, then at least Li Qingyun had to upload the supergene data to a higher dimension like himself. But Li Qingyun's supergene data was obviously in the real world, right in front of them, in Li Qingyun's divine body. But under such circumstances, how could the subsequent dimensional space projection be achieved? This is clearly impossible. Unless. Chapter 352 A Sudden Surrender. Unless, I have a dimension space that is completely independent of the universe, but it really exists. Li Qingyun followed the words of the god of death Carl and directly said the answer that he still couldn't believe in his heart. No, this is impossible. Even the dark matter plane space is just a special field between illusion and reality. It cannot be separated from the real universe. The god of death Carl was unwilling to believe this, because no matter how you look at it, it is impossible for such a dimension space that is completely independent of the universe to exist. Under the algorithm of the big clock, in all known universes in the entire super god universe, the dark matter plane space is already the most special existence. It is impossible for there to be a dimension space that is more special than the dark matter plane space and completely independent of the universe. You don't know, you haven't seen it, just because you have never touched it, not that it really doesn't exist, Li Qingyun said. In fact, what he was performing at this moment was the technique that the soul gem had performed before, when it was hidden on the Vormir star before it was obtained. Could it be that you really have a special dimension that is independent of the universe? Death Carl looked at Li Qingyun in shock. This news shocked him more than the first time he officially confirmed that the void was real. Because, if everything Li Qingyun said at this moment was really confirmed, then many related fictional theories would be confirmed together. For example, there are about multiple parallel universes, and about different dimensions and infinite worlds. In this world, there are even more universes that transcend the universe itself, which will open up a whole new world for him. So I said, what you have reached is only the pinnacle of this world, but it is impossible to reach the height I have seen. Li Qingyun said from the beginning that the pinnacle of Death Carl is only within this universe. But Li Qingyun is standing at the top of two worlds, and he will definitely involve more universes and gain more power in the future. The secrets of the universe you understand are not the true truth of the universe. Li Qingyun reiterated this point again. And at this moment, Death Carl felt for the first time that what Li Qingyun said might be true, because if while this is not true, many things cannot be explained at all. Can I explore all this with you? The god of death Carl suddenly looked at Li Qingyun very seriously. He came directly in front of Li Qingyun and bowed to Li Qingyun, just like when he met the holy Keisha, he performed such a solemn etiquette. He would only do this to someone he truly respected. You want to join me? Li Qingyun was a little surprised. He never thought that this god of death Carl would surrender to him at such a critical moment. As long as you are willing to accept, I am willing to offer my most sincere loyalty. God of death Carl is a person who can do anything to explore the truth of the universe. Now he knows that in Li Qingyun's hands may be the real mystery that transcends the entire universe. This, Li Qingyun fell into hesitation. God of death Carl's talent in scientific research is really unparalleled. Just relying on his ability to create almost all the strongest super god technologies in the current super god universe directly by himself, it is enough to prove it. But the original problem has not been solved yet. That is the loyalty of the god of death Carl. This guy is willing to betray the entire main biological civilization in order to explore the void. The space principle is his main god, and later the arrogance of the super seminary, but the god of death Carl directly snatched the big clock from him. Moreover, this guy also had the terrifying idea of dedicating all the lives of the main biological civilization to the void creatures. I know what you are worried about. In order to prove my loyalty, I can hand over my supergene data directly to you. Besides that, I will no longer develop any advanced technology in the future. At most, I will only provide some theoretical things, just like the truth of the universe we have explored. I only know the surface at most. The god of death Carl knew what Li Qingyun said, so he stood up at the first time to show his loyalty. Hand over the super gene data directly to me. Li Qingyun hesitated. Super gene data, for super soldiers, is undoubtedly the most important thing. Whether it is the first generation of super soldiers in the past or the phantom of the god of death Carl now, super gene data is the most important thing for super soldiers, because it is their foundation. I need to think about it. Li Qingyun did not answer directly. After all, this matter involved too much, and he could not make a decision immediately. Then, in order to show loyalty, we will directly give up this war. After the god of death Carl finished speaking, he turned around and looked directly at the battlefield below. His eyes were fixed on Snow, Nusa and the mercenary woman. Put down your weapons, today's battle is over. The words of the god of death Carl came out, like a thunder, directly shocked the entire battlefield. Everyone, all those who were fighting, looked over in confusion at this moment. What is going on? Snow looked at the god of death Carl blankly. From today on, I am the subordinate of the god of chaos. If you still worship me as the main god, then surrender with me. If you are unwilling to accept all this, then I will personally take action and eliminate all of you. The words of the god of death Carl shocked everyone present even more. Obviously, both sides were still fighting each other, and the outcome had not been decided yet, and neither side had even shown its advantage. Why did they suddenly say that they would not fight this battle? Even the god of death Carl had to personally kill his men who were still resisting. This reversal was too big, wasn't it? Yes, everyone stop first. Li Qingyun also spoke, and his words made Jezailan and others confused. This matter involves a lot of things, but I can't explain it to you in detail now. Li Qingyun sent a message to Angel Yan, Jezailan and others. After they all heard it, although they were still shocked, they still did what Li Qingyun said. They began to put away their weapons and retreated to the location of Skyblade number 7. Chapter 353 Void Creatures Transform Void Matter. After that, there was no more fighting between the two armies. Both the super soldiers and the void mechas returned to their original places. But at this moment, there was still one last problem, the void creature that had been summoned. I will cut off the signal for summoning the void creature and repairing the void crack, but the problem is that this void creature has already appeared. If it cannot be killed, it will still exist even if the signal is turned off. With its power, it can still devour all civilizations that have been exposed to the universe communication channel, Death Carl said. He could only see what Li Qingyun would do, because with his ability, he had no way to deal with this matter. All of this could only be pinned on Li Qingyun. Only if Li Qingyun could really kill this void creature, the civilization of the super god universe at this stage could be preserved. At the same time, only if Li Qingyun could really kill this void creature, Death Carl would really believe that Li Qingyun could really master the secrets of the entire universe. Li Qingyun turned his gaze to the void creature, watching the void crack behind him gradually shrink, but the void creature had completely escaped from it. This is the biggest threat in the universe at this stage, and perhaps the only threat. Do you want to go back by yourself, or do I just wipe you out? Li Qingyun said. He would still give the void creature the right to choose at this moment, and the reason was very simple, because Li Qingyun planned to keep this hidden danger and leave it to the people of the super god universe in the future. But if the void creature is unwilling to go back obediently, then Li Qingyun can only take action himself and completely eradicate it. Let me go back by myself? Do you really think you can kill me? The void creature did not think that Li Qingyun could really kill himself. Even though many of the previous performances showed that Li Qingyun could dodge its attacks, this was only a kind of dodging power, not a power that could really threaten it. The void creature was born in the void realm. In that special dimensional space, it is eternal and immortal, and no power can threaten its survival. But this is the real universe. Everything here is far less dangerous than in the void realm, and the people here are naturally restrained by it, so how could anyone here kill it? Stupid and material creatures, Li Qingyun sighed, then raised his right hand and grabbed forward. In the surrounding space, a burst of colorful light began to gather. There is time, space, reality, mind, soul, power and infinity. This is all the power that Li Qingyun has mastered, and it is the collection of all the power that Li Qingyun possesses. At the same time, this is also all the power that this universe has. What is going on? How come these powers are like the entire universe is rejecting me? The void creature was directly shocked, because at this moment it sensed the strange power that would only be generated in the universe every time it devoured all the main biological civilizations it could find. The void creature has experienced countless times, so it understands that this is a self-protection mechanism of the universe. It is a power that repels invaders only when the universe senses that someone is going to destroy the entire universe. But the problem is that this kind of power is always generated when it reaches its limit. It has never been generated as soon as it appears like this time. The most important thing is that this power seems to be controlled by Li Qingyun. As Li Qingyun waved his fingers, it quickly exerted pressure on the void creature. I'll go by myself, don't do anything." The void creature was scared. Yes, it was scared. It was constantly squirming its huge body, and it was quickly retreating, trying to retreat back to the void crack. "Since I have already taken action, how can I let you go back?" Li Qingyun originally did not intend to take action, because he planned to leave this void creature to Jezailan to deal with in the future. But since the void creature did not know what was good for him, how could he stop after he had already begun to mobilize the power of the universe? Li Qingyun stretched out both hands at the same time, and the colorful light became more dazzling and powerful. This is to directly control all the power of the entire universe. All known attributes are included in it, as if, "I am the universe." Li Qingyun directly said what the death god Karl was thinking. This is the true portrayal of Li Qingyun now. He is now a real single universe level, because he has completely mastered all the power in the entire single universe. Moreover, this single universe level is different from the so-called single universe level in the Marvel universe. Those people only exerted a certain aspect of power to the level of a single universe. They have the power to destroy a single universe. But Li Qingyun is different. He has completely mastered the power of the entire universe. Time, space, matter, and all other powers are under Li Qingyun's control. The gap between having the power to destroy a universe and completely mastering the entire universe is very huge. "No, I was wrong. As long as you let me go, I will never do anything to your main biological world again." Before the void creature finished speaking, the power of the universe suddenly blocked him completely, making it unable to move at all. Even its best ability to directly control this soul could no longer be used. "No need to say more, you can just die," Li Qingyun said, holding his hands tightly at the same time. The moment the power burst out, the original void cracks were instantly closed, and the void creatures that were already in the real universe were instantly transformed into countless dots of light. These lights quickly turned into a large number of void particles, which were very similar to the black hole matter produced when the death god Karl drove the star to bombard the black hole. After the death of this void creature, it actually produced such a large amount of void matter. Death god Karl looked at this scene in shock. "That's right, I will accept these void matters." While Li Qingyun was speaking, a vortex suddenly appeared beside Li Qingyun, absorbing all the light spots around. Li Qingyun is now a person who possesses the void controller time, but the void matter can also apply this power to other places. For example, when Li Qingyun needs to create the ultra-dark matter plane space later, he will integrate it into that space and exert the power of the void to an even greater extent. These void substances can make Li Qingyun stronger. Chapter 354 Arrangements for the Dark Nebula. Is this all over? When Li Qingyun turned around and returned to Skyblade number 7, everyone was at a loss after hearing that Li Qingyun had killed the void creature. It was thought that this battle would be a thrilling life and death battle, which might alarm the entire universe, and would have a greater impact in the future, affecting all the main god civilizations, aerospace-level civilizations, and even pre-nuclear civilizations. But in the end, not long after the battle began, the god of death Karl actually surrendered. This obviously extremely terrifying void creature, even Jezailan felt that it was a void creature that could destroy the entire universe after sensing it, was actually crushed to death by Li Qingyun. "Indeed, it is much simpler than I thought," Li Qingyun also sighed. Even if he had known that he could crush the void creature, in his original plan, this battle with the Dark Nebula would last for a long time. But he never expected that Karl the god of death would surrender, and he directly ordered all his men to give up resistance. Even if Li Qingyun wanted to attack them and kill them all, he could not find a reason. The most important thing is that Karl the god of death surrendered suddenly. Angel Yan stepped forward and said, "Yes, if Karl the god of death does not surrender, then this void crack will always be open. Even if the commander-in-chief kills the void creature, There may be new void creatures appearing later. The commander-in-chief has to deal with those void creatures all the time, so he naturally can't help us. With our strength, if we want to capture the Death Song Academy and destroy the summoning device that opens the void crack inside, I'm afraid it will take a long time. Maybe we won't be able to win. Jezzailin didn't say this to discourage them, but it was true. If the two sides continue to fight in the same state as at the beginning, it would be difficult to predict the outcome. Of course, they still stand on the winning side. As long as they call for support from the rear and let the Earth and the Angel Nebula send more helpers, they can naturally defeat the Void Mechas of the Dark Nebula and Snow and the other three. It just takes more time and more risks. The key now is not how well this battle goes, but how we should deal with them. Angel Yan turned his eyes to the Void Mechas below. Although this battle has stopped, the foundation of the Dark Nebula is still there. Those Void Mechas, the three Void-class warriors, and the Death God Karl, the main god of the Dark Nebula, are all still alive. I haven't thought about how to deal with them. Li Qingyun is now a little caught off guard, because no one has ever thought that the Death God Karl would surrender. This is a very crazy person. Let him join us. Even if he lets him follow us to another world, he will become a threat to us. Angel Yan already knows that the joining of the Death God Karl must be to explore the deeper mysteries of the universe, and these mysteries are now in the hands of Li Qingyun. But if Karl the God of Death really knows more secrets, if he really comes into contact with more mysteries of the universe, then Karl the God of Death will certainly become more powerful. In that case, wouldn't it be equivalent to creating a huge threat out of thin air? Do you think I can't control Karl the God of Death? Li Qingyun looked at Angel Yan. No need to look at me, I'm just saying a possibility. Yan naturally knew that Li Qingyun didn't want to make himself feel that his strength was not enough to suppress Karl the God of Death. I naturally know what you think, but I'm thinking about another problem. Li Qingyun was not afraid that he couldn't suppress Karl the God of Death, because when he heard that Karl the God of Death was going to surrender to him, he had already considered how to suppress Karl the God of Death. Although Karl the God of Death has excellent scientific research ability and his thoughts are very scary, this kind of ability and stubbornness in thought are also the easiest to control. As long as you can keep providing him with problems that he can't solve, he will naturally fall into it and study hard. And if you have technology but no way to apply it, it will naturally not pose a threat to Li Qingyun. The most important thing is that Karl the Death God decided to give him his super gene data for safekeeping, which means that Li Qingyun can directly control Karl the Death God's life. While controlling Karl the Death God's life, he also pays attention to not letting Karl the Death God have the opportunity to contact the real power. Then, when Karl the Death God makes any unusual moves, he can immediately eliminate Karl the Death God. Moreover, with the pressure of Karl the Death God around him, Li Qingyun will surely make faster progress in the process of growing up. What's the problem? Yan looked at Li Qingyun in confusion. What should we do with these three Void Knights? Li Qingyun's eyes were fixed on Snow, Nusa and Kasha? It's Kasha. Li Qingyun didn't really see the dark data of this female Void Knight until this moment, and he knew what her name was. Kasha, the daughter of the Void, the female shooter in LoL. However, this is obviously not much different from LoL, except that the names are exactly the same, and they are all warriors with the power of the Void. You have already taken in Karl the God of Death, why do you still need to consider these three Void Knights? Angel Yan couldn't figure it out. Since his master had already dared to take him under his command, why should he hesitate about the remaining three subordinates? I am confident that I can suppress Karl the God of Death, but if I leave Snow and the others behind, can you control them? Li Qingyun turned around and looked at Jezzailin. Li Qingyun would definitely take Karl the God of Death with him later, because only by keeping this scientist by his side could he help him develop more technology. But Li Qingyun didn't plan to take Snow, Nusa and Kasa with him. The reason was simple. These three people were loyal to Karl the God of Death, and they all had strong strength. If they went with him, then if Karl the God of Death made any unusual moves, they would definitely try their best to cooperate with him at the first time. The purpose of my coming here today was to defeat and kill them. If I can't even suppress them at this time, how can I take on the responsibility of protecting this world? Jezzailin stepped forward and answered confidently. Okay, since you are so confident, then this matter is decided. At that time, I will leave with the God of Death Karl and the daughter of the Void. Nusa and Snow will stay under your command and act according to your orders. Li Qingyun made the final decision. Chapter 355 Goodbye Big Clock. Under the leadership of Li Qingyun, The people on Skyblade VI returned directly to Earth with several people from Dark Nebula. Death God Karl immediately told Li Qingyun the hiding place of his super gene data, and then Li Qingyun took it and put it in his own small universe. Death God Karl's super gene data is completely in his hands, so no matter when, as long as Li Qingyun is willing, he can directly erase the super gene data, then Death God Karl, who only exists as a phantom, will completely fall. In addition, Snow and Nusa also handed over their respective super gene data to Jezzalan. This was specifically explained by Death God Karl, and its purpose was to show his sincerity in surrendering. As for Kassa, Death God Karl also explained it specifically. Kassa is not a servant of Death God Karl. She was originally just a bounty hunter in the universe, and her nature is similar to that of Mudo. When Death God Karl found Kassa, he thought that she upgraded the Void Engine as a condition to let her work for him. Therefore, now that the God of Death Karl has surrendered to Li Qingyun, Kassa's super gene data is still in Kassa's hands, and the God of Death Karl cannot directly order her to hand it over. Li Qingyun didn't think it was a big deal. Anyway, Li Qingyun was planning to take her to the Marvel Universe, and he would have plenty of time to slowly subdue the Void Daughter. In addition to the God of Death Karl and Kassa, the most important thing is of course the big clock. At this moment, Li Qingyun stood in front of the big clock. Big clock, God of Chaos, the intelligent system in the big clock immediately gave an answer. Long time no see, Li Qingyun sighed. It was indeed a long time since he had talked to the big clock. For Li Qingyun, the big clock can be said to be his most important helper. It was the key to helping him grow up when Li Qingyun started from nothing. However, you are not the you that I am most familiar with now. Li Qingyun began to enter the data system of the big clock, and he understood all the information in the big clock in all aspects. The things inside are just as Li Qingyun showed when he just got the big clock. Li Qingyun began to modify the system, modifying some things in the direction he understood, such as implanting some artificial intelligence properties to make it more like the big clock he knew. He even set it up so that the big clock would directly contact Iron Man at the beginning. At that time, the big clock actually did something different from Li Qingyun's idea. Li Qingyun wanted to develop steadily and wanted to develop himself quietly. But the big clock directly contacted Iron Man at that time, disrupting Li Qingyun's original plan and pushing Li Qingyun onto a path of rapid development. Now it seems that this approach is a bit risky, but in fact it is the fastest way for Li Qingyun to grow up, because there is pressure, there is motivation. Otherwise, maybe when Li Qingyun was in Marvel, it would take a longer time to grow up, instead of becoming the pinnacle of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in just a few years. This time when he goes back, it is estimated that he should set foot in the real Marvel Universe, and then it will involve the entire multiverse. After dealing with the matter about the big clock, Li Qingyun was very peaceful for a period of time. In the subsequent more than 10 years of waiting for Nezid to become the true King of Angels, Li Qingyun has been settling down. He wants to collect and summarize all the things in the Super Gods universe. At the same time, with the addition of the God of Death Karl, the development of some void technologies has become easier. However, Li Qingyun did not provide the real core dimensional space technology to the God of Death Karl. It is still only Hizai and Li Qingyun who are conducting research and development together. Although the God of Death Karl has been accepted, some key secrets still need to be slowly opened up to him little by little. If all are made public at once, it is not a problem that Li Qingyun will worry about, but it will make Hizai feel a little uncomfortable. After all, Li Qingyun recruited Hizai with an attitude of absolute trust in Hizai. Now a person who suddenly surrendered has directly come into contact with a core technology like her. It is hard not to think too much. After 7 or 8 years, Angel Yan and Morgana both began to release power to Unixid and Du Kaiangwei. They had let the two take over the affairs of the entire civilization and let them manage everything in the civilization on their own. The free Angel Yan naturally lived a shameless life with Li Qingyun, but Morgana suddenly felt a little bored. After all, she suddenly became an idle person from a main god of a civilization and had nothing to do. So Morgana simply came to Earth. She first found the God of Death Karl and began to study the void technology he had studied. At the same time, she also began to contact Hizai, and wanted to learn from Hizai what secrets were hidden behind Li Qingyun. Therefore, studying Li Qingyun became the most important thing and the greatest pleasure in her life. 10 years passed in a blink of an eye. Seeing that the affairs of both the angel civilization and the demon civilization were completely controlled by Inaside and Du Kaiangwei, On the Earth side, under the leadership of Jesai, the entire Earth civilization was on the right track. Li Qingyun began to prepare to return to the Marvel Universe. First, all the people to be taken over were gathered. There were some people from the Xiangbinglian, including Qilin, Sun Wukong, Liu Chuang, Su Xiaoli, Rui Mengmeng, He Weilin, and Sultan from the Xiangbinglian, and the rest continued to stay. The Xianji King Hexi, Angel Yan, Angel Leng, Angel Zhu, Angel Yunyan and Angel Fangxing in the Angel Corps. As for Angels Huxin and Angel Kayla, they stayed behind, and they needed to continue to assist and decide. In addition, there were 3 special ones, the Demon King Morgana, the Death God Karlan Kassa of the Dark Nebula. Calculating carefully, Morgana was the loneliest one here. She was alone. This time she left with Li Qingyun, and she didn't even bring a demon with her. However, perhaps in the past tens of thousands of years, they have become accustomed to fighting against the angel army on their own. Just as Angel Yan said, she enjoys herself. Moreover, like the god of death Karl, there are more mysteries of the universe in front of them, and there is also Li Qingyun, the mysterious god of chaos, which makes them not feel bored, but full of interest. Chapter 356 Leaving the Super God's Universe. After gathering everyone, Li Qingyun went to meet the Space Principal and Holy Kesha again, and this time Li Qingyun did not go alone. He brought Angel Yan, Morgana, Death Karl and Hizai. As for Qilin and the others, although they have a good relationship with Li Qingyun, they are all from the younger generation, and there is basically no intersection between the two of them, so it doesn't matter whether they meet or not. This time, Li Qingyun reported the progress to the Space Principal. After all, this is the real purpose of the Space Principal, letting him travel through time. Now that it has been completed, it is natural to let him know. Morgana and Death Karl said a lot to the Space Principal, mainly talking about Li Qingyun. They wanted to know the real secret of Li Qingyun. But the Space Principal never told them these secrets. As for the Space King Hexi and Angel Yan, they and Holy Kesha are more special. They originally thought that Kesha was dead, and now they see Holy Kesha again. Naturally they are very excited. Moreover, they also felt a little sorry for Holy Kesha, because the other party handed over the angel civilization to them, but now they had to give up everything and follow Li Qingyun to another world. Kesha didn't care about all this, because as early as the moment she chose to let go, everything had nothing to do with her, and she was already a stranger. In fact, I can collect your sacred atoms again through the big clock, so that you can restore your divine body, and you can leave with us. Li Qingyun looked at Holy Kesha and said, "No, although the world you are in makes me curious, I would rather watch the operation of this universe and the development of various civilizations like now. Next time, won't you come back? If you come back next time, maybe I will change my mind and go to that world with you to take a look." Holy Kesha did not accept Li Qingyun's proposal. For the Angel King, she has experienced too much in the past 30,000 years. She feels that she is too tired. She just wants to rest like this now, quietly, watching this beloved universe. "Okay, since you have made up your mind, I respect your choice." Li Qingyun did not say much. Anyway, he only asked this question for the sake of Hizai and Yan. "Okay, it's time for us to leave." After Li Qingyun finished speaking, he waved his hand and put away the open dimension again. The principle of the space and the Holy Kesha disappeared again. But everyone knows that they are always there. They are hidden in this universe and exist in every known corner of this super God's universe. In fact, after meeting the Holy Kesha and the principle of the space, Hizai and the Angel Yan were more determined to lead the angels to leave the super God's universe together. Because they all understand that the Holy Kesha has always been there, and she is still guarding this universe in another way. Moreover, they all understand from Kesha's conversation that they should take a good rest and hand over this universe to the new generation of people, so that they can manage and develop it well. After meeting, Li Qingyun began to prepare to open the dimensional channel to the Marvel Universe. The entire Super God's Universe, the top leaders of the 4 main God civilizations have come: Jesai, Inezid, Dukayang Wei, Lena, and the teams they are now leading. Among the people who left this time, it can be said that the majority are from Earth civilization. Half of the people in the Xiangbinglian team followed Li Qingyun, and there are also 3 main players, Suo Dun, Sun Wukong and Liu Chuang. The most important thing is that Li Qingyun is gone. This is the god of chaos, the founder of the Earth civilization, who helped them develop and made their Earth the strongest civilization in the universe. But they all understand that this is inevitable. Li Qingyun's arrival was originally just to save them from the crisis of extinction. Now that the crisis is resolved, he will naturally leave. After so many years, everyone has already been mentally prepared. Take care, Jezailan patted Liu Chuang on the shoulder and said. We will have the general commander to protect us when we get there, so there won't be any problems. But there are only a few of you left now. Can you handle so many things well? When parting, people always think more. Now they are all reminding each other one by one. Don't worry, our civilizations can already live in harmony, and there won't be any problems. Jezailan and his group lost a lot of people at once, but after all, the strongest people in the entire universe are now in the same group with him. Although Inezid is not very familiar with him in the Angel Nebula, they all know each other. In addition, Zixin is still watching over there, and the angels Kira and Moe also have a good relationship with the Earth. Lina and Dukayangwei are even more needless to say. One of them is the main god of the Liang civilization, and the other is the main god of the demon civilization. They both came out of the Xiangbinglian team. Especially Dukayangwei, she is a native Earthling, born on Earth. Of course, if counted by blood, she can only be half an Earthling. How could she have a grudge against the Earth? But I always feel that those two are not good people. Killen looked at Snow and Nusa. These two are both void-level warriors. Although in the past 10 years, Li Qingyun has also upgraded a black hole engine-level void engines for Dukayangwei, Reina, Inezid and Zixin, and Jezailan has developed his ability to a very high level. But after all, these two are unstable factors. We are here, Dukayangwei said. That's right, I am the real sun god now. If those two guys dare to mess around, I will burn them with fire, Reina said. Look, we have a strong army here, Jezailan said with a smile. At this time, Li Qingyun in front had completed the opening of the dimensional channel. The special channel that appeared in the universe, the channel that will lead them to a brand new world, appeared in front of them. At present, only my divine body can bear to cross the dimensional channel. All of you, enter my small universe, Li Qingyun said, and took everyone into his small universe in one breath. He turned around and looked at Jezailan and others, smiled and waved to them, as a final farewell, and then flew directly into the dimensional channel, taking everyone with him, and disappeared. Chapter 357 Return to the Marvel Universe. After crossing the dimensional channel, Li Qingyun soon returned to the familiar Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is a branch of the Marvel Universe, belonging to a very special universe, because here, Li Qingyun is not the god of chaos, but the lord of the divine river. Here, Li Qingyun commands more than 50 life planets, forming a brand new super god civilization, and there are also many subordinates under his command. The first time Li Qingyun entered the Marvel Universe, he processed a big clock. He sent a big clock he brought back from the Super Gods universe directly back to when Li Qingyun just crossed over, making it the biggest plug-in for himself at the beginning. At the same time, after sending out the big clock, he also reconnected to the big clock that originally existed in this world. The moment Li Qingyun reconnected with the data at the big clock, the sound of the big clock came over immediately. Long time no see, long time no see, they were greeting each other. And the feeling of the conversation between this big clock and Li Qingyun was obviously different from the previous big clock. After Li Qingyun set up the program that allowed the big clock to show human emotions, its artificial intelligence would appear very friendly every time it talked to Li Qingyun. Li Qingyun was also full of gratitude for the big clock that helped him grow all the way to the present. How long have I been away? Li Qingyun asked. You have been away for nearly 2 years, the big clock answered. Li Qingyun frowned slightly when he heard this answer. Originally, he thought that there would be no time gap when he went to the Super Gods universe this time, because when he went to the Super Gods universe, the principal of the space school assisted him to arrive and appeared directly 2 years before the start of the Super God Academy animation plot. Now Li Qingyun left and came back again, but the time could not be adjusted according to his wishes, but appeared 2 years after he crossed over. 2 years before the body, 2 years after. It seems that every time I cross over, I can only be before or after my existence. Li Qingyun soon had a rough guess in his mind. Has anything special happened in these 2 years? What Li Qingyun is most concerned about now is the situation in the Marvel Universe, and what the Super God civilization he founded has developed into now. Everything is going well, except that you are already a father. What did you say? Li Qingyun was shocked. This news was beyond his expectation. Soon after you traveled through time, I detected that new life forms appeared in the bodies of Wanda and Hila. After comparing the genetic data, I can confirm that this is your child, the big clock explained. You mean, Wanda and Hila are both pregnant and gave birth to children, boy or girl? Li Qingyun was surprised at first, and then suddenly became curious. Speaking of which, he is now several dozen years older. Although his appearance will not change at all due to the super gene, if we look at it according to the rhythm of human life, he can be a grandfather at this time. So, if he really has children and becomes a father, he doesn't think there's anything wrong with it. However, he has been away for 2 years. He was not around when Wanda and Hila were pregnant, and he was not around when the little one was born. The most important thing is that Li Qingyun did not come back alone this time. He brought a group of people with him, 2 of whom were his new lovers. Tell everyone under the rule of the super god civilization that I am back, and then let the devouring beast prepare to build a brand new palace for me to use later. Li Qingyun said so, but he himself directly locked the direction of the earth, took a step, and directly crossed the space to the sky above the earth. The moment he arrived on the earth, the Eye of Insight began to work, and he directly found Wanda's location. Another step out, Li Qingyun went directly to his former villa and directly to the yard. In front of him, there was a woman in a red dress and red hair, coaxing 2 toddlers in front of her. The 2 children, a boy and a girl, looked very similar, with pink faces, very cute. Li Qingyun's appearance immediately attracted the attention of the woman in front of her. She was stunned in place, her whole body began to tremble unconsciously, and there were even tears in her eyes. 2 years have passed. The man she loved the most has been gone for 2 years without any news. During these 2 most critical years in her life, she missed him all the time, and today, he finally came back. I'm sorry, I didn't know it would take so long to come back after leaving this time, Li Qingyun explained a little embarrassedly. However, just as he said this, the woman in the red skirt turned around and rushed over. With Li Qingyun's strength, he could dodge such a move in an instant, but the person who rushed over was Wanda, and she was also the mother of his 2 children. Thinking of what he owed her in the past 2 years, how could he dodge again? He even took off all the metal armor on his body that might hurt Wanda, so that Wanda would not be hurt when she got close. Wanda hugged Li Qingyun tightly, her whole body trembling, which was caused by being too excited. I'm sorry, Li Qingyun said softly. Nothing to be sorry about, as long as you come back, everything will be fine. Wanda has been missing Li Qingyun day and night for the past 2 years, not waiting for him to come back so that she can blame him. So now, facing the man in her arms, she only has joy and excitement in her heart, and there is no resentment at all. Well, this time I come back, I will never separate from you again. Li Qingyun nodded, and this time he was serious, because even if he had to go to other worlds in the future, he could directly put Wanda into the small universe, and then take her away together, and naturally they would never separate again. Okay, hearing Li Qingyun say that they would never separate again, Wanda became even more excited. When she hugged Li Qingyun, her movements became tighter, so that her originally plump chest was deformed under this squeeze. Ahem, suddenly, a cough came, and not far outside the yard, a man in a gray tights appeared. It was Quicksilver who got the news through the big clock and rushed over at his super fast speed. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358 Returning as a Father. Hearing the cough from behind, Wanda slowly let go of Li Qingyun, and her face flushed unconsciously. Although I know that you two haven't seen each other for more than 2 years, and I miss you so much, you can't just leave the 2 children alone and hug them here, right? Seeing that Li Qingyun and Wanda had separated, Quicksilver came to the 2 children and hugged them both on the left and right. However, after seeing Quicksilver's actions, Li Qingyun waved his hand directly, and the 2 children came into Li Qingyun's arms out of thin air. These are his children, his own children. What are your names? Li Qingyun asked gently, and the 2 children still had a strong repulsion to Li Qingyun at this moment. After all, they had never seen each other before. People who have never seen or touched each other, even if they are their biological fathers, will not be very close to you as soon as they meet. This is a normal phenomenon. Some novels describe that people who have never seen each other since birth feel very close to each other as soon as they meet and want to touch each other. That is abnormal. Zhaoqing, Xiaoyan, you don't have to be afraid, he is your father. Wanda came forward and introduced him to the two children in a friendly manner. When the two children heard Wanda's introduction, their big watery eyes blinked twice unconsciously, and then they stared at Li Qingyun with wide eyes. Zhaoqing, Xiaoyan, Li Qingyun looked at the two children, and a smile first appeared on his face, but then he raised his head and looked at Wanda. Zhaoqing and Xiaoyan, these two names are known to be given to commemorate themselves. Lord of Shen. Just when Li Qingyun wanted to comfort Wanda again, more people came outside the yard. Iron Man, Banner, Zhao Halen, Wang Haiming, Thor, etc. All these people who have been taking care of various matters for him in the Marvel Universe, all came. Li Qingyun knew that even if he wanted to comfort and make amends with Wanda, he would have to find time later. After all, he was the main god who interrogated the super god civilization. Now he has been away for 2 years. When he comes back, he will naturally have a good chat with his subordinates about the recent situation. Are they all here? Li Qingyun asked. At the same time, Wanda also stretched out her hands and took Zhaoqing and Xiaoyan from Li Qingyun's hands. Although Wanda missed Li Qingyun very much and was reluctant to part with Li Qingyun at this moment, she was also a high-level member of the super god civilization. She knew that at this time, it was still important to deal with important matters, so she would not stop Li Qingyun from dealing with those things. The big clock has sent a message. Everyone else should come here soon. If there is anything, let's discuss it after everyone else comes together, Li Qingyun said, and almost at the same time as his voice fell, more people gathered from all over the universe. Hela, who was far away in the large Magellanic cloud, Thanos, who is located in Luoxing, Go Xianzhen, who was located in Sakar, Cooper, Maber, Ariel, etc., who were located in Qingyun Star, were all passing through the Great Insect Bridge and were on their way quickly. Among them, the fastest one was naturally Hela, who is located in the large Magellanic cloud. She was obviously the farthest one among all the people, but she still arrived before the others. Beside Hela, there was also a child. Although he was the same age as Zhaoqing and Xiaoyan, both of them were more than 1 year old, he gave people the feeling that he was not pink and cute, but had a very strong look, and his eyes were full of determination. Obviously, Hela's treatment of children was different from Wanda's. Hela, the goddess of death who was originally a hegemon in the universe, naturally tended to be more strong in educating children. Li Qingyun's meeting with Hela was not as sensational as Wanda's, but no matter how strong a woman was, she would still have a gentle side, so after seeing Li Qingyun, she couldn't help but walk up and kiss Li Qingyun on the face. Moreover, she took the initiative to send the child to Li Qingyun's arms and directly introduced the name of her child to Li Qingyun. Xianxia? Why did you give him such a name? Li Qingyun was speechless. Wanda named her two children Zhaoqing and Xiaoyan in memory of Li Qingyun, but Hela named the child Xianxia. Is it because the weapon used by Li Qingyun is called the Sword of Xianxia, so she named the child Xianxia? My son is destined to hold the power of the entire universe in the future. Isn't it justified to name him after the Sword of Yu, the Lord of Shen? Hela did not shy away from it at all. If she had deliberately concealed her ambitions when facing Li Qingyun before, she would be absolutely strong on the issue of her son now. No matter who it is, she can't take away her son's future position. Do you want him to become the king who dominates killing in my hands? Li Qingyun naturally understood what Hela meant. But he didn't think there was anything wrong. As his son, it is natural for him to hold power in the future. However, to become the main god of a civilization, or even the master of the entire universe, it is not enough to simply have a good background. For a long time in the future, he must train this child well, so that he has the strength to master this authority and the qualities to become a main god. After that, Thanos, Ariel and others also gathered. After everyone came, Li Qingyun talked to them about the various things that happened in the Marvel Universe in the past 2 years. The most important thing is the development of a super god civilization in the past 2 years. Li Qingyun listened to their reports to him, which were basically consistent with what the big clock told him. Even if there were some minor mistakes, there was nothing wrong. What everyone was most concerned about was still the subsequent development of a super god civilization, and they were all curious about what Li Qingyun had experienced during his absence. Finally, They wanted to hear Li Qingyun's plan for the future development of a super god civilization. But Li Qingyun only met with them first and listened to their reports, and did not say much else. After that, he arranged for everyone to stay on Earth, and he went to accompany Wanda and Hila. Li Qingyun was still happy after separating from them, but the two missed Li Qingyun day and night, so how could he not make up for them? After a whole night of tossing and turning, they were naturally satisfied. Chapter 359 I have to confess to you. There is something I have to confess to you. Li Qingyun gently kissed Wanda's forehead, and then turned back to hug Hila in his arms. Confess? From the looks of it, you must have had an affair outside. After all, Hila has lived for more than 2,000 years, and she is also a well-informed existence in the universe. As for Li Qingyun telling them to confess at this moment, the meaning is naturally self-evident. Really? Wanda looked a little surprised, and turned around and looked at Li Qingyun. Yet, Li Qingyun nodded awkwardly. Then, he told her everything that happened in the Super God universe, including what happened between him, Qilin and Angel Yan. I didn't expect that we have only been here for 2 years, but you have spent more than 30 years there, Wanda sighed. She was not even 30 years old since she was born, and she didn't expect Li Qingyun to have spent more than 30 years in the Super God universe. With your personality, you have only found 2 sisters in 30 years. I'm afraid these 2 sisters are both beautiful women with national beauty, right? Hila teased. I don't deserve it. We are just average looking. Just as Hila finished speaking, Angel Yan and Qilin appeared directly. In fact, they had already sensed the situation outside after Li Qingyun returned to the Marvel Universe. Li Qingyun gave them the authority to enter and exit this small universe at any time. It's just that when they just came here, Li Qingyun didn't call them, so they didn't come out. Later, when they knew that Li Qingyun actually had other women here, and even these women gave birth to his children, they were even more reluctant to come out. Just now, they sensed that there was no movement outside, and knew that Li Qingyun had finished with them, so they couldn't help but take a curious look, and then they happened to hear what Hila said, so they jumped out directly. Seeing the appearance of Angel Yan and Qilin, Wanda subconsciously tightened the quilt on her body, but soon, she let go again. Since she was already able to serve Li Qingyun with Hila, why would she care about such things? However, when she looked at the 2 people in front of her seriously, her eyes widened unconsciously. So beautiful, Wanda couldn't help but sigh. It's really a rare beauty, Hila also sighed. Originally, she was just teasing, but now that she saw it with her own eyes, she realized that her guess was actually true. Angel Yan and Qilin are simply perfect, whether it's their looks or their figures, they are rare in the world. Why did you come out without waiting for me to say hello? Li Qingyun felt a little helpless. He didn't expect Angel Yan and Qilin to come out. It was only at this moment that he remembered that Angel Yan and Qilin had the authority to freely enter and exit this soul gem microcosm given by him. Doesn't it mean that they also saw him and Wanda and Hila making love just now? No, I can't let this place go to waste. Thinking of this, Li Qingyun suddenly burst out with a burst of energy shock, and in an instant, the entire space was completely blocked, even distinguishing it from the time of the outside world. Everything that happened afterwards, those who understand it must know. When everyone gathered at the villa the next morning, they not only saw Li Qingyun, Hila, and Wanda, but also saw 2 people they had never seen before. Later, more people appeared, including Xianji Wang Hexi, the god of death Carl, Sun Wukong and others, all of whom came out of the small universe. The appearance of more than 10 people in this group shocked the entire super god civilization. Sun Wukong and others were also shocked. Although they all knew that Li Qingyun had a brand new force here, they did not expect that Li Qingyun would actually re-establish a super god civilization here, and directly named it Super God Civilization. Li Qingyun's code name in this civilization was still the Lord of Shin. No wonder you said you were the student of the Principle of Space when you first arrived at the Super God universe. It turns out that you have been operating in the name of the Lord of Shin in this world, Sun Wukong sighed. There are many things that have only become clear now. I have roughly understood everything. Death God Carl is the smartest one and the one who sorted out everything at the first time. There are perfect reasons for how Li Qingyun obtained his abilities and the various things he did after returning to the Super God universe. Afterwards, Death God Carl sorted out all of this in front of everyone and told everyone present. Li Qingyun did not mean to stop Death God Carl. With this Death God Carl analyzing from the most rational perspective, Li Qingyun would not have to waste his words. When everyone heard all this, they understood what kind of existence Li Qingyun was, and finally understood why there was such a brilliant person like Li Qingyun. Of course, there are also some key things that they all got wrong. No one knows Li Qingyun's identity as a time traveler, because in the deduction of the god of death Karl, Li Qingyun is just an ordinary person who originally lived in this world. He was met by the space principal by chance, and then his life changed. Li Qingyun knew that they were wrong, but he would not point this out. Let them believe according to their own guesses. Only Li Qingyun and the space principal should know this special identity of a time traveler. I didn't expect that there are so many things involved, SYNOPSIS. But this is also a good thing. If it weren't for the collision of the two worlds, how could such a powerful main god be produced? If there was no Lord of Shen, I'm afraid our current world would continue to be in chaos, Banner said. Yes, the appearance of the god of chaos is the root of the entire super god's universe from disaster. If he hadn't appeared, our Earth alone would have suffered more than 4 billion casualties, Li Qingyun was also sighing. The data he was talking about was the result of the Red Star series computer's calculation based on the Earth's combat power and the development speed of the Zhongbing company at that time. It was the result produced when Li Qingyun did not appear. So, whether it is for us or for you, the appearance of the Lord of the Divine River is crucial. This view, at the moment it was said, was directly recognized by everyone on both sides. Chapter 360, Fusion of Civilizations. After both sides reached a consensus and felt that Li Qingyun's existence was a blessing for the two worlds, the next step was the fusion of the two world civilizations. The super warriors of the super god world brought new scientific and technological knowledge and combat modes, and even the concept of civilization development. In the superheroes of the Marvel Universe, they also saw many things that they had never had before, mainly those magical powers, such as the chaos magic of the Scarlet Witch, the innate power of Hela and Thor. But no matter what, the super warriors brought by Li Qingyun this time brought the greatest impact to the superheroes. In their Marvel Universe, there are many superheroes, and a few new ones will emerge from time to time. But these superheroes, compared to super warriors, are just like playing house, and they can't be compared at all. This batch of people who came with Li Qingyun, any one of them can definitely crush all their superheroes, even Thor, the Hulk, and even Captain Marvel, may not be able to beat them. Take the angels for example. Even the weakest angels, Fang Xing and Union, are at the level of third-generation super soldiers, and have extremely strong flying abilities. They can cross the universe in the flesh with wings of time and space. In the words of Angel Yen, they are born to enforce justice in the universe, so each of them has extremely powerful power. And this time, everyone who came with Li Qingyun and his team is a strong angel, a top warrior picked from 100 or 1,000. Lord Shen, we have built the palace you want. On this day, Shishi came. This Shen mecha that Li Qingyun copied and created based on the data of Shishi and the big clock appeared in front of Li Qingyun and these super soldiers for the first time after they came back this time. Shishi, a group of people were dumbfounded when they saw Shishi appear here. Even the god of death Karl looked at Shishi with some confusion at this moment. At the beginning, we were weak, so we used the big clock to create a group of mecha warriors. Directly using the data of these Teodi like Shishi can reduce a lot of trouble for me, so I just applied it directly, Li Qingyun explained casually, and then said to Shishi, very good, your performance in the super god civilization in the past 2 years has been very good, Li Qingyun said with praise. He really felt that the King Shishi had done a good job in the past 2 years. At least under his supervision, no major incidents had occurred in the entire super god civilization, and even the entire Marvel universe was calm. This is what I should do, Shishi agreed. Well, you go down, and you will still be the captain of the super god civilization mecha action team. Now you should be responsible for the affairs of Luoxing, right? In the future, Luoxing and the 18 life planets under its jurisdiction will be under your management. Li Qingyun threw out 18 life planets in one breath. Although these life planets were under the rule of Li Qingyun in the past, they were not actually developed because the super god civilization was short of manpower. Even if the super god academy had been training, the number of people they could train in 2 years was very limited. Therefore, except for a few key planets, most of the other planets were still in the era of cold weapons. Now that Li Qingyun is back, he has brought back more than a dozen super warriors in one go. With their abilities, they will be a great help in further leading the development of the Super God Academy and guiding the development of civilization at the same time. Therefore, in Li Qingyun's plan, all other life planets will gradually enter the development and upgrade process in the future. So, Lord of Shen, what about Qingyun Star? Shi asked. Although he was recently in lieu of Star, he commanded all Shen mechas, and Shen mechas have been distributed in all life planets in the entire Super God civilization. Shi actually controls the intelligence of all life planets and is involved in all life planets. Qingyun Star has always been the core of the development of the entire civilization. Now Thanos is mainly responsible for it, and he will be directly responsible in the future. Li Qingyun said so, but in fact, the previous sentence of the core of development has already explained everything. Because the Super Seminary has established a branch there, the superheroes of the Super Seminary will often travel between the Earth and Qingyun Star through the space channel. Ariel and other young people of Qingyun Star are also stationed there for a long time. Therefore, although Thanos is the person in charge there, he is only a manager and cannot completely control the entire Qingyun Star. This is determined by his identity. After all, Thanos was once one of the big villains in the Marvel Universe and wanted to destroy half of the life in the entire universe. Although he has begun to change himself because of Li Qingyun, even if Li Qingyun trusts him, other superheroes still cannot completely trust him. It is natural to observe his situation more. Thanos also knows his situation, so he did not show any dissatisfaction, but he felt lonely from time to time. After all, none of his former 5 black generals are alive. But it was a blessing in disguise. Gamora and Nebula would visit Thanos from time to time because of his transformation, and as time went by, their original hatred was also fading a little bit. Instead, they felt more and more like family members. I understand. Shi listened to what Li Qingyun said and did not express any objection. Go down. I have to take the people from the Super God Academy and start the transfer. After Li Qingyun finished speaking, Shi retreated silently. After that, Li Qingyun began to lead all the people in the villa to start the transfer. Originally, the Super God Academy, which was expanded from Li Qingyun's original villa manor, was no longer suitable as a place for their large group of people to live. They were going to go to the castle group built in the air, where they would live in the future. And this act of living in the air would also make them more in line with their identity as gods and rulers of this super god civilization. In the past 2 years, the Earth has already formed a unified ideology because of the Super Seminary. Even if Li Qingyun did not take the initiative to conquer them, all of them have tacitly acknowledged that Li Qingyun and his Super Seminary are the rulers of this Earth. Chapter 361, Warning from the Observer. Shortly after the Super Seminary moved to the floating castle group, Li Qingyun received a message from the universe. It was a message from the observer Socorro, who had not appeared for a long time. This message was sent directly to Li Qingyun. No one in the entire Super Seminary knew about the existence of the Cosmic Observer except Li Qingyun. No one else in the Super Seminary knew about the existence of the Cosmic Observer, so Li Qingyun did not tell anyone else and flew to the Cosmic Moon. Observer Socorro, when all other observers still adhered to the iron rule of not interfering with the development of civilization, only he appeared in front of Li Qingyun. As early as when Li Qingyun mobilized the stellar energy in the universe, he had contacted Li Qingyun and even reminded Li Qingyun to pay attention to the existence of the Celestial God Group. Socorro, I didn't expect that you would contact me again so soon after returning this time. Li Qingyun looked at the observer in front of him and greeted him with a smile. It's really what happened now that I have to care about it. Socorro was also helpless. Originally, he was just like other observers in this world, just quietly watching the development of other civilizations in this universe. And in this observation, the development of the super god civilization made him most curious, because the super god civilization rose too fast, and the development mode was different from other civilizations in the past. Seeing the super god civilization, he felt that it was very likely to become the most special civilization in the universe, which could make all other civilizations far behind. But in the process of observation, he suddenly noticed that Li Qingyun appeared with a large group of people. Originally, he thought that Li Qingyun had found them from somewhere in the universe, but after observation, he found that these people actually came from other worlds and other dimensions. Even if there is only the situation of human body shuttle between the multiverses, it will have an impact on the timeline. Now, these dozen people have been transferred directly from outside the dimensional universe, and the key is that each of them is so powerful. Any one of these dozen people can become a change that affects the entire timeline. The appearance of more than a dozen people is enough to change the time pattern of the entire universe in an instant. Maybe, this will directly affect the multiverse. In the chapter of What If, when faced with the upgraded version of Ultron with 6 Infinity Stones, the observers had come forward to find the Avengers from other parallel universes to eradicate it. This has proved that when something happens in the universe that can affect the multiverse, these observers will still take action. What's more, Socorro was originally one of the observers who paid more attention to him. Now that he knows the whole truth, if he doesn't take any action at all, it will seem a bit abnormal. I know what you are worried about, but I can only tell you that I have only one rule, that is, don't interfere with me. Li Qingyun doesn't care about other universes, nor does he care about what other people think. He only cares about things related to himself. These people who are related to him, those planets ruled by him, and those people on those planets who are loyal to him. This is if people don't offend me, I won't offend them, but if people offend me, I will definitely launch the heaviest blow to them. It's not that others are interfering with you now, but your actions have disturbed the balance of the entire multiverse timeline. I'm afraid that it will cause many changes and conflicts in the multiverse in the future. Your actions will make the entire multiverse timeline completely chaotic, and may even lead to countless wars and destruction, Socorro explained. He knew Li Qingyun's style. Originally, it was precisely because of Li Qingyun's approach that he didn't think Li Qingyun would do anything dangerous. But the current development of the situation is that Li Qingyun has already become the person who will affect the entire universe without knowing it. Li Qingyun's actions have already threatened the safety of the multiverse. If there is really a danger, I will wipe it out. If there is a war, I will end it directly. Li Qingyun's attitude is still tough. Ending war with war is not the best solution, Socorro reminded. Then what do you want me to do? Li Qingyun looked at Socorro. This observer came to him. It is impossible that he came to him just to say how dangerous his existence is. He should have his own ideas. With your ability, as long as you control it as much as possible, just maintain the current state, and no longer develop and expand, I think it will not affect the multiverse. Socorro hopes that Li Qingyun can restrain his edge. He hopes that Li Qingyun can no longer take the initiative to cause any turmoil in this universe. And Li Qingyun has a big clock in his hand. With such powerful power, he will be safe to maintain the status quo, and it will be very easy to control the impact on the entire universe and timeline. Sorry, I won't do such a thing, Li Qingyun refused directly. A civilization that no longer continues to develop cannot exist for a long time. Even if I have very powerful power now, this power is only temporary. If I don't continue to become stronger, then one day someone will be able to surpass it. Life is like sailing against a current. If you don't advance, you will retreat. As an observer, you should know this truth. After Li Qingyun finished speaking, he turned around and flew back to the earth behind him. He didn't want to talk to Socorro anymore, because he found that his thoughts and the observer were not on the same track. These so-called observers may have very powerful powers, but they have been influenced in the past billions of years. In their minds, there is only one idea of self-preservation, and this idea is not in line with the booming development of the super god civilization. Now think carefully, why can the super god civilization, which has only developed for more than 100,000 years, reach such a height today, but the civilization of the Marvel Universe, which has been around for billions of years, is still as chaotic as it is now? Isn't it because in the comparison between the two worlds, the various civilizations of the super god universe have more active thoughts than the civilization of the super god universe? Shen's civilization was once persistent in pursuing eternal life. Later, after the destruction of Shen civilization, the Super God Academy explored the entire known universe endlessly. The principal of the space, the god of death Carl, Morgana. All these people are constantly working hard to understand the deeper mysteries of the universe. It is because of continuous progress that we can make continuous breakthroughs. I encountered some bad things today, and the update was too late, but I will try to write the next chapter before 12 o'clock and complete the daily quota. Thank you. Chapter 362. Sit quietly under the windowsill. The observer stood on a huge rock on the moon, looking at Li Qingyun, who was slowly flying into the earth, and sighed and shook his head. He heard what Li Qingyun said, but he still disagreed with Li Qingyun's approach. Knowing that doing so would affect the peace and stability of the entire universe, why did they have to do this? This was to use the safety of everyone in the universe as a bit for their advancement. This approach was very selfish. You may be very strong and talented, but after all, you still can't reach the level of thought that we observers have. It seems that the plan to recruit you to join the ranks of observers can only be abandoned. After saying that, Sakura turned around and flew towards the depths of the universe again. He left the solar system. After returning to Earth, Li Qingyun went directly to the room where His eye was and knocked gently on the door of the room. From the looks of you, it seems that you have encountered something. The door opened automatically. At this moment, His eye was leaning on the windowsill, looking at the sea of clouds in front of him from afar. Although she didn't see Li Qingyun's appearance, she knew that Li Qingyun's state today was not quite right just by hearing Li Qingyun knocking on the door. I did encounter something, Li Qingyun answered, and then walked over by himself, stood beside His eye, crossed his hands over His eye's slender legs, and leaned on the windowsill. His action made His eye, who seemed a little lazy, inexplicably stunned, and turned around to look at Li Qingyun in surprise. Although he knew that Li Qingyun's state today was not right, he was still shocked to see Li Qingyun's behavior. This god of chaos, who can control the entire universe at will, would still be like this. Obviously, what he encountered was not a trivial matter. I just met an observer, and he gave me a warning. Warning. This word appeared on Li Qingyun. His eye knew very well what it meant. He said that if I brought you here, the timeline of the entire universe would change dramatically, and the impact would even affect the entire multiverse, and it might cause the entire universe to fall into endless wars and devastating disasters. Li Qingyun told the truth about what happened at that time. His eye nodded silently after hearing what Li Qingyun said. It turned out that it was because of the impact on the world, not because one person's strength could threaten Li Qingyun. With Li Qingyun's current strength, if there is still someone in the universe who can directly threaten Li Qingyun, and make Li Qingyun threatened by him, then this world is too scary. You know, Li Qingyun suppressed the terrifying existence of the entire super god universe with his own strength. What did you answer at that time? His eye no longer minded that Li Qingyun was so close to him at this moment, but asked calmly about Li Qingyun's current state. The appearance of one person would threaten the safety of the entire world. There must be many thoughts in Li Qingyun's mind, and he might even think whether he was right to do so. After all, it would be a great psychological pressure for the entire multiverse to be in danger because of one's own willful behavior. I said, I will continue to do what I want to do, and I will not stop my pace of development and progress. Li Qingyun turned his head and looked at His eye's delicate face, which was only more than 10 centimeters away from him. At this moment, the hot air exhaled by Li Qingyun when he spoke could even reach His eye's face. You have made your own decision, and you are so firm in your own ideas. Why do you still look so worried? His eye asked back, but she didn't know why she suddenly felt a strange emotion growing in her heart. She has known Li Qingyun for more than 20 years, and she has been studying space dimension technology with Li Qingyun very seriously, and they have cooperated closely in the application and development of cosmic membranes. It is absolutely impossible to say that there is no affection between the two. However, His eye always remembers her identity, because she has lived for 30,000 years, and Li Qingyun is just a little guy who is less than 100 years old, so she always keeps a certain distance from Li Qingyun. Li Qingyun, perhaps knowing what His eye was thinking, had always strictly controlled his behavior in front of His eye, and had never done anything beyond the limit. This was the first time that the two of them were so close to each other like today. Although I think I'm just doing what I want to do, in the end, this will indeed have an impact on the entire universe, and the multiverse is likely to be as serious as the observer said. Li Qingyun was a time traveler, and he knew about the collision of the multiverse. The reason for such a situation was that superheroes traveled through the multiverse and had an impact on the multiverse. What Li Qingyun did now was much more serious than those superheroes crossing the multiverse. Therefore, Li Qingyun's statement that the entire multiverse would collapse might not be just empty talk. You are afraid that one day you will really become the sinner who destroyed the entire multiverse. His eye had understood why Li Qingyun was so worried. After all, it was because of his own idea that countless multiverses would take risks together. So what are you going to do now? His eye asked. At this moment, she inexplicably had a trace of worry about the man in front of her. No one can predict what will happen in the future. All I can do now is to do everything to the best of my ability according to my imagination. Li Qingyun finished speaking and then lowered his head. He stretched out his hands and gently picked up His eye's smooth feet, then sat on them himself, imitating His eye's way, sitting under the windowsill. leaning on the windowsill and looking out the window. However, after he sat down, he did not let his eye retract the feet he had picked up, but gently placed them on his thighs. His eyes face blushed when he saw this scene. However, when he thought Li Qingyun would do something to him, he found that Li Qingyun had turned his head and just stared blankly out the window, looking at the blue sky and white clouds, and looking at the distant starry sky. Even in broad daylight, when ordinary people could not see any stars at all, Li Qingyun could still see the brilliant galaxy. Chapter 363 Li's Eyes Little Panic. Li Qingyun just sat there quietly for several hours. During this time, his eyes' thoughts kept turning. She thought about retracting her feet many times, but when she thought of Li Qingyun's focused gaze at the universe and the stars, she was afraid that her actions would affect him. So, she could only keep the original action, but this posture was too ambiguous, and she was not like Li Qingyun, who was thinking about something far away. She was always looking at Li Qingyun, looking at Li Qingyun's handsome face, thinking about her current situation, and her inner thoughts were constantly rolling. The heart that had been silent for thousands of years, under the changes of thoughts again and again, was also constantly turning and fluctuating. Hizai, are you there? Suddenly, the voice of Angel Yan came from Hizai's mind. Yan, hearing Yan's exchange with her, Hizai couldn't help but feel a little flustered for a while. However, this panic only appeared for a moment, and she quickly recovered and controlled her current emotional state again. What's wrong? Hizai's panic was only for a moment, but the answer she gave to Angel Yan was still caught by Angel Yan. After all, they are all gods, and their abilities are already very powerful. Even the smallest abnormalities can be sensed by them. Nothing, Hizai answered, and at this moment, her condition has been fully recovered, so Angel Yan can't find anything. However, the strangeness of the previous moment was enough to make Angel Yan care. Xiao Yuner wants to find her father, but I have been trying to contact Qingyun 2 hours ago, but I haven't been able to contact him. We haven't found him anywhere else. Is he with you? Angel Yan asked, and when he heard this last sentence, his eyes' emotions, which had been well controlled, fluctuated again. That, he's with me. His eyes' emotional fluctuations and the strange tone of her answer made Angel Yan frown immediately. Originally, she just thought that Li Qingyun might be studying dimensional space technology with Hizai. Because it was a serious matter, Li Qingyun ignored the communication request from the outside world. But now, after hearing Hizai's answer, it was clear that there were other hidden secrets. It was absolutely impossible that he was just studying dimensional space technology. I'll be there right away, Yan said, and without waiting for Hizai's answer, he spread his angel wings and flew towards the room where Hizai was. Hizai felt Yan's current state. The moment her eye of insight was activated, she saw Yan flying along the outer wall of the castle at a very fast speed. At that moment, she hurriedly contacted Angel Yan. Don't come over from the windowsill, and don't make too much noise. Qingyun is not on the right state now. He needs quiet. Hizai sent this message to Angel Yan, and her temper, which was originally a little irritable because of jealousy, stopped immediately after hearing the content of Hizai's message. Although she found from these words that Hizai's attitude towards Li Qingyun was obviously wrong, she also paid attention to the most important news, that is, Li Qingyun's current state. It was wrong. Who is Li Qingyun? He is the Lord of Shen in the Marvel Universe, the God of Chaos in the Super God Universe, and the most powerful man they have ever met. Such a powerful man was actually described by Hizai as being in a wrong state at this moment. I'm afraid he has encountered something at this moment. I know, Yan Xuan replied, and then she originally wanted to rush directly to the windowsill of Hizai's room and break in directly from the outside, but now she put it away. She changed direction and came to the door of Hizai, then took off her armor, put away her wings, changed into a dress she usually wore, and then gently opened the door. The first time she opened the door, she saw the two people sitting under the windowsill and saw the ambiguous posture between Li Qingyun and Hizai. However, she also saw Hizai winking at her, asking her to keep as quiet as possible. Yan Ping calmed down her thoughts and looked towards Li Qingyun. It was not until this moment that she saw Li Qingyun's state at this time. She saw that he was sitting there very quietly, with his eyes looking straight ahead. The expression on his face gave people a kind of silence that was completely different from his usual intimacy. Yan had been sleeping with Li Qingyun for more than 20 years. This was the first time she saw Li Qingyun in such a state. Naturally, she could understand that Li Qingyun was indeed very wrong at this time. What's wrong? Yan didn't dare to go in because she was afraid that she would make any noise and disturb Li Qingyun. So, she could only ask Li Xian's secret communication. It's about an observer who said that her arrival might cause countless multiverses to fall into a disaster of destruction. He is considering how to deal with these dangers that may really come later. I answered like this, but this seemingly simple answer also contained extremely important information. Li Qingyun brought them from another world, and then caused an impact on this world, and this impact is likely to cause the destruction of countless multiverses. It was no wonder that Li Qingyun was so lost in thought for such a major event. He didn't come to me when something like this happened. Yan felt a little disappointed. For something like this, at this time, it should be the wife's turn to comfort her husband. Why didn't they know what happened at all? Don't think too much. He didn't come to you because he didn't want you to worry about it. I persuaded her, but she also felt inexplicably that she seemed to be regarded as a very important person by Li Qingyun without realizing it. Because, according to common sense, when something like this happens, you need to find someone to accompany you, but you don't want to do anything and just want to stay quietly. This is usually done by people who understand you. I understand, Yan replied, and then left the room on his own, gently closed the door, and tried not to make any noise as much as possible. I have some things to deal with. Qingyun, I'll leave it to you. After Yan finished speaking, she walked directly to the main hall of the palace complex. She was going to find other people from the super god civilization. She had to learn about the multiverse. As a wife, if she knows that her husband has troubles to deal with but cannot offer any help, then she is really incompetent. Chapter 364: A Wife's Responsibility. Angel Yan came to the hall and immediately contacted King Shi. In the super god civilization of the Marvel Universe, although the people in the Super God Academy are the main candidates for each civilization, Angel Yan is not familiar with those people. Moreover, the relationship between them and Li Qingyun is special. Unlike King Shi, who is a pure servant of Li Qingyun, Angel Yan can let him do anything without any scruples. Soon, Shi came to the hall. He saluted respectfully to Angel Yan, just like when he faced Li Qingyun. Shi, you have been here for many years. Do you know about the multiverse? Yan did not drag his feet and directly asked the question he wanted to ask most. Multiverse, it is countless parallel universes that exist at the same time as this universe. In the Super God Academy, some people are specifically responsible for studying this topic, Shi replied. You mean, someone in the Super Cruel Academy is specifically researching this? Angel Yan was a little surprised. The field involved in the Super God Academy in the Marvel Universe seemed to be more complex and extensive than the Super God Academy in the Super God Universe. The person in charge of the research now is Dr. Pym, and they just conducted a research experiment some time ago. By entering the quantum field, they brought Dr. Pym's wife out of the quantum field. She answered seriously. He gave the most detailed answers to every question of Angel Yan as much as possible. This absolute obedience and thoughtful service came from the program that Li Qingyun implanted in the data system of Shi Wang's body, which was absolutely loyal to the master. Do you know the detailed data inside? Angel Yan asked. In the data system of the big clock, everything will be recorded. You are the wife of the Lord of Shen, so you naturally have the authority to read this data. Shi Wang reminded that some things cannot be explained in a few simple words. If Angel Yan wants to understand, he can only watch all the information himself and then understand it by himself. I understand. You go down first. After Angel Yan finished speaking, Shi bowed respectfully and then turned to leave. Angel Yan raised his hands and opened an operation interface in midair. It was the data system of the big clock. Angel Yan quickly searched for all the information about the parallel universe in this data system, including some of the situations that Li Qingyun knew before, as well as the research of the students in the Super God Academy later. Among them, the most important are some speculations about the multiverse recorded by Li Qingyun. For example, the multiverse is a parallel universe formed by different misaligned points in different time. These parallel universes and the main universe are in a parallel state that will never intersect. Under normal circumstances, there will be no connection between each other. But some special means can cause this kind of intersection between two different parallel universes. For example, when a person with the ability to cross parallel universes suddenly crosses to another universe, the two universes will intersect with each other, and this intersection leads to the gradual unification of the two universes. Some rules in the universe will forcibly drive the two parallel universes to collide with each other. In the end, both universes will be completely destroyed by this collision. According to this phenomenon, Li Qingyun also made a new speculation. That is, the reason why the two universes collided is actually that the two parallel universes want to return to the state they had just separated. Because of a different choice, two different parallel universes were created. Now that the two parallel universes have recontacted, it means that the two universes should still belong to the same universe, so the two universes want to merge into one again. But this merger was caused by a specific difference when they were separated at the beginning. Now that more common points have conflicted when they are reunited, all the common places need to be merged. But a pile of sand can still form a pile, but it is absolutely impossible for two souls to return to the same body at the same time. Therefore, this phenomenon of mutual repulsion will occur, the internal repulsion and the external fusion, the conflict between the two powerful energies inside and outside, will naturally lead to the complete destruction of both universes. The only way to prevent all this from happening is to directly destroy the other universe when this fusion collision occurs, but this approach means sacrificing one of the universes. Moreover, sometimes it is not necessarily just sacrificing one universe. Because the impact on each other is too strong, sometimes this collision of parallel universes will involve more other universes. The problem that Li Qingyun is facing now is that he forcibly crossed two dimensions and merged the two forces of different dimensions, and even the people of two dimensions. Will this collision between parallel universes also happen between different dimensional universes? And after the sudden addition of other dimensional forces to the Marvel universe, will it cause problems in the universe itself? In short, this is already related to the universe, and there is a high possibility that there will be collisions between the multiverses and various other dangers. Unless a solution can be found, the occurrence of such an event, even any one of them, will cost at least the destruction of a universe. Destroying a universe means more than billions of lives in a universe, and the deaths of these billions of lives are caused by oneself. What a terrible psychological burden this is. Of course, some heartless people, some extremely selfish people, don't care about these. But Li Qingyun is not that kind of person. Although he is self-centered and centered on the people around him, he cannot kill all the people in other universes directly. So, this is the problem Qingyun is facing now. Angel Yan read all the information and understood what kind of situation Li Qingyun is facing now. Thinking of the burden Li Qingyun is bearing, she felt that she should do something, and she urgently needs to do something for Li Qingyun. This is her responsibility as a wife. Sister Yan, what's wrong with you? Outside the hall, Qilin was walking in, and Wanda and Hila followed her with their children. They all came to find Angel Yan, because Angel Yan just helped Xianwen find her father, but when she turned around, even Angel Yan disappeared. Fortunately, Yan did not completely block his communication like Li Qingyun, and they soon knew Yan's location through the big clock, so they all came over. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 365, If you can't stop her, let her join. What's wrong with you? Qilin asked, while putting Yuna on the ground and letting her walk by herself. Yan's face looked a little strange at the moment, and she was sitting on the throne with the operation interface of the big clock in front of her, which showed that she was doing something very important. Nothing. Yan waved her hand casually and put away the operation interface in front of her. Did you go to find Qingyun? Where did he go? Hila was quite straightforward and asked about Li Qingyun's situation directly. He is with Hexi now, Yan replied. Hexi? The scientist from your angel clan. Wanda still knew the name of Xianji King Hexi. After all, among the dozen people brought by Li Qingyun this time, the four most famous ones were Death God Carl, Xianji King Hexi, Demon King Morgana and Monkey King Sun Wukong. When they were in the Super God universe, three of them were leaders of a civilization. Sun Wukong was needless to say, he and Li Qingyun were like sworn brothers, and they had a very good relationship with each other. Hila and Wanda were naturally very respectful to Sun Wukong, and even polite to Su Xiaoli and the others. Looking at this, it seems that he is researching some very critical technology, so he shut down the communication and doesn't want to be disturbed, Wanda explained. Not researching technology, Yan shook her head. Regarding the relationship between Hizai and Li Qingyun, she felt that she needed to talk to the three people in front of her. It was not to let them reject Izai or be on guard against Izai, but she felt that it might be better to let Izai join them. After all, she had seen Li Qingyun's attitude towards Izai. Even though they had not established a relationship like theirs, Li Qingyun still placed great importance on him. They took the initiative to promote it now, so that Izai and Li Qingyun could break the window paper and get along better with each other. Maybe it would be better for them. Listening to Angel Yan's description of the situation at that time and mentioning the problems that Li Qingyun was worried about at the time, the four women fell silent at the same time. In the hall, only 3 children were left playing and fighting with each other. If it's really as you said, let her join us, so that at least we are in the same position as her. Hila was different from the other 3 people in front of her. She was with Li Qingyun at first because she was forced, but later she succumbed to Li Qingyun's strength and wanted to use Li Qingyun to improve her status. Now she has all of this. After giving birth to Xianxia, she really regarded Li Qingyun as her man, but she still knew that only if Li Qingyun treated her sincerely could she continue to be the mistress of this super god civilization and the ruler of the large Magellanic cloud. Looking at Li Qingyun's attitude towards Izai now, it is obvious that he is interested in Izai, and he subconsciously regards Izai as a very important person. In addition, she has heard from other angels that Izai and Li Qingyun have been cooperating with each other for more than 20 years, and some of the top abilities that Li Qingyun has mastered now are also due to the research that Izai participated in. It can be said that Izai not only has a very good relationship with Li Qingyun emotionally, but also has given Li Qingyun great help in his career. Want to compete with such a Izai for favor? Perhaps Angel Yan and Qilin can still compete, but Hila can never compete with him, and Wanda is still a step behind. As long as Qingyun can be happy, I have no objection. Wanda has been able to accept the appearance of Angel Yan and Qilin, so how could she not accept Izai's joining? In fact, when she saw the group of super soldiers appearing with Li Qingyun, she almost thought that all the women in them had a relationship with Li Qingyun. Especially those angels who are all beautiful. Now, it's just that there is one more Xianji King Izai, which is already very good. You all said so, what else can I say? Qilin had nothing to say, but she was completely different from the other 3 people. She was still a little depressed in her heart. As early as the Super God universe, she had thought that Izai might steal Li Qingyun's heart, so she did not hesitate to join forces with Angel Yan to take down Li Qingyun. But who would have thought that more than 20 years had passed, and what was coming could not be stopped? Why, do you still find it hard to accept in your heart? Angel Yan has been with Qilin for a long time, so she can still see the unhappiness in Qilin at this time. No, I just think that we are not doing well enough after all, otherwise why would Qingyun go to Izai instead of us at this time? Qilin said so, and Angel Yan, Wanda and Hila, who heard her words, fell silent. Indeed, if they could do very well, Li Qingyun would naturally come to them instead of Izai when facing such a thing. Izai's knowledge is much better than ours, her strength is also stronger than ours, and most importantly, her calmness when facing various things. This is what we should learn, Angel Yan said, and everyone was silent again after hearing it. In the final analysis, the distance between them and Li Qingyun is too far. What is Li Qingyun's current strength? He is an existence that can directly suppress a universe. In terms of title, Xianji King Hexi may not be as good as Angel Yan, but after Angel Yan handed over the Sacred Knowledge Treasure House and Keisha's arsenal to Nezid, her strength is actually not as good as Hexi. Moreover, the biggest gap between her and Hexi is still in the knowledge level. Xianji King Hexi is the one who laid the foundation of the entire Mellow Shinting technology and the one who researched the top technology of all angel technologies, while she, Angel Yan, is just a user. Since you know your shortcomings, then go and improve. What's the point of worrying here? Morgana walked in at the entrance of the hall. After the Demon King came to the Marvel Universe, he was attracted by all kinds of magical powers. He had been studying and exploring all kinds of things seriously. But just now when she passed by the hall, she heard the conversation of Angel Yan's successor in the hall. She couldn't help but open her mouth to remind them. I heard that there is a force called Kamartaj on Earth. When the super god civilization has completely ruled the entire Earth, it can still exist independently. It must have a very special status or extremely strong power. Do you want to go with me to take a look? Morgana asked, and the Angel Yan and others who heard her words turned around subconsciously. If it was before, they would not be very interested in such things, but now. Chapter 366 The Combination of Mind and Body. The manor of Camartage welcomed a group of special guests. They were led by the Demon King Morgana, and included 5 women including the Angel Yen, Killen, Hila and Wanda. Is this Camartage? A magician's paradise? Morgana looked at the magicians who were practicing magic around her and asked her own questions. Yes, this is where magicians practice magic. It's Camartage. Not far away, a bearded man was walking over. He was wearing a blue shirt and a red cloak behind him. He was Doctor Strange, who had risen in Camartage in the past 2 years and became the strongest magician besides the Ancient One. The disciple of the Supreme Sorcerer is called Doctor Strange. Morgana only took a glance and read the specific information of Doctor Strange. Is this the eye of insight? You can see other people's information and background at a glance. Doctor Strange naturally knew some of the situations in the Super Seminary. He had long known that Li Qingyun had such an ability. Now the people Li Qingyun brought back also had it, which seemed reasonable. Yes, this is the eye of insight, Morgana answered. When I was at the Super Seminary, I heard that Camartage is a very special place, and there is a very powerful power called magic here. Is this what these people use? Morgana looked at the magicians who were casting magic around. It seems, it's not that special. Morgana thought so, because what she saw didn't seem to be a big deal. Any super soldier who came here casually could probably kill them. The means and abilities they used can also be easily achieved by super soldiers through dark energy. The most powerful magic here can only be cast by a very small number of magicians. Most of the time, others can only use these simple magics. Doctor Strange saw Morgana's thoughts and gave his answer immediately. There are hundreds of magicians on the entire Earth, but there are not many who can master time magic and practice magic that can involve the multiverse. In fact, among the people that Doctor Strange knows, only the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One can achieve such a level. Others, even Doctor Strange himself, are far from reaching that level. It is said that you have the magic that can control time. Is this true? This is the main reason why Morgana is interested in this place. Studying time and space is Morgana's interest. The time and space rose is based on Morgana's interest and then continuously developed. What did you say? People here can actually master time magic. Angel Yen was also surprised when she heard Morgana's question. When she learned about the information about the multiverse, she had seen that the birth of the multiverse was due to the fluctuations of different timelines. The ability to control time and change time is directly related to the ability of the multiverse. The only person who can master time magic is the Supreme Sorcerer, Doctor Strange answered. Then where is she? Angel Yen walked up and asked directly. The Sorcerer Supreme is dealing with some things now. If you want to see her, you may have to wait a little longer. Doctor Strange was polite to all the people who came. Although the Super Seminary did not interfere in the affairs of Camartage, it gave them enough freedom and respect. But there is no doubt that the real ruler of this earth is the Super Seminary, Li Qingyun. Most of the people in front of him are Li Qingyun's women. Although there is one who is not. She was also brought back by Li Qingyun from another world. I guess the relationship is not too bad. In this case, Doctor Strange naturally has to be polite when facing them. Okay, let's wait first. Angel Yen did not force them to let the Sorcerer Supreme come out to see him immediately. After all, Li Qingyun chose to let them go at Camartage. I think Li Qingyun also respects the Sorcerer Supreme. If that's the case, how can they come here and act arrogantly? At the same time, in the Mid-Air Palace, Li Qingyun finally recovered from his meditation. After spending a long time, Li Qingyun was actually thinking about what attitude he should choose when dealing with the problem of the multiverse. Moreover, after he calmed down at that time, he suddenly realized that he seemed to have not been in a daze like this for decades. This feeling of daze actually made him feel very good. So, he simply stopped thinking too much, he turned off the communication with the outside world, completely immersed himself in it, and then quietly looked at the sky, looking at the vast sea of stars behind the sky. This universe and starry sky, every time you stare at it carefully, you will always find its endless mysteries. So Li Qingyun looked at it for several hours. Withdrawing his thoughts, the moment he put his hands down, he touched a pair of smooth jade feet. He lowered his head and found that he had been letting his eye put his feet on his thighs. Originally, he wanted to withdraw his hands quickly, but when he turned his head, he found that his eye had been looking at him all the time, and there was a faint blush on his face. Have you withdrawn your thoughts? His eye said, and then he was about to withdraw his feet. But the next moment, Li Qingyun grabbed her pair of jade feet, then lowered his head and kissed her snow-white ankles gently. Instantly, his eyes' face became even redder, but she did not mean to reject Li Qingyun. Instead, she relaxed and let Li Qingyun take care of himself and proceed to the next step. During these few hours, his eye actually noticed the situation of Xian and the others, and she also knew what Xian and the others were talking about. It was during these few hours that she gradually accepted her own heart and began to face up to her feelings for Li Qingyun. Now that Li Qingyun finally took the initiative, how could she refuse? Just like that, she let Li Qingyun start from her feet, gradually approach her heart, gradually enter her thoughts, and completely merge with her. Under this window sill, under the moonlight and starlight, they enjoyed an unprecedented wonderful time. The feeling of complete fusion of heart and soul, and complete harmony of soul and body made both of them intoxicated. Chapter 367 Multiverse. Several hours passed by unknowingly. Li Qingyun and his eye also calmed down their excitement and began to gradually return to their former selves. However, the window paper between them had been broken. Although it was the same as before, it was also different from the past. When you were thinking before, Yan came to you. She knew about the multiverse and must be worried. Do you want to go find her? His eye was not the kind of petty woman. She respected those women like herself. She would not monopolize the happiness she had obtained, so she would still tell Li Qingyun about Yan's situation so that Li Qingyun could comfort them. Well, they are now in Kamartaj. When Li Qingyun spoke, he directly began to explore the location of Angel Yan, and this exploration found that Angel Yan actually brought Qilin, Wanda and Hila to Kamartaj together. Kamartaj? What is that place? His eye had not learned about the situation on Earth through the big clock, so she did not know about Kamartaj and the Supreme Sorcerer. It is the place where the Supreme Sorcerer and other magicians practice magic, Li Qingyun answered. In this world, there are currently 2 known ways to cross the multiverse, and one of them is in the hands of Kamartaj, Li Qingyun said. So, Yan and the others are going to learn about the information about the multiverse, his eye said. You take a rest first, I'll go over and take a look, Li Qingyun said, and then he casually opened a wormhole in the air beside him. Well, go, his eye answered. Li Qingyun came forward and kissed her gently on the face, then summoned clothes to put on, and went directly into the wormhole and disappeared. His eye lowered her head and saw a touch of bright red under the window sill where they were just now. Her face flushed with shame, and she quickly waved her hand to wipe it away. He's over 30,000 years old, and he's still like this, his eye sighed, but she felt an unprecedented happiness in her heart. At the same time, Li Qingyun, who had passed through the space wormhole, had arrived at Kamartaj. The Angel Yan and others who were sitting in the hall waiting for the arrival of Ancient One stood up subconsciously the moment they saw Li Qingyun coming. Qilin even pounced on him and rushed into Li Qingyun's arms. Li Qingyun stretched out his hands to hug her, and gently stroked her back with his right hand. What's wrong? So excited, Li Qingyun asked, and he also smiled and greeted Yan and Wanda. It's you who has something on your mind but doesn't tell us. Do you treat us as your wife? Qilin said with a slightly complaining tone. Oh, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but this thing just happened. I thought Izai also knows a lot about the universe, so I went to her to chat, and then I thought of something, so I was stunned for a while, Li Qingyun explained. Is it about the multiverse? At the door, Ancient One and Doctor Strange appeared at the same time. Ancient One had been busy before, and Doctor Strange did not interrupt her. Until Li Qingyun's arrival, the extremely powerful energy instantly alarmed Ancient One, and she came directly without waiting for Doctor Strange to report what was going on. Seeing Ancient One coming, Qilin quickly let go of Li Qingyun and retreated to the side of Angel Yan and the others. Is this the Supreme Sorcerer? Morgana was there at this time. She looked at the bald woman standing in front of Doctor Strange. Judging from the data seen by the Eye of Insight, although she had strong energy, she did not look too shocking. Originally, the position of Supreme Sorcerer was intended to be given to the Lord of Shen, but unfortunately, he was unwilling to accept the position at that time, and he also established a super seminary himself, Ancient One answered, and when Morgana, Angel Yan and others heard her words, they suddenly realized. Why did the super seminary treat Kamartaj so specially? It seems that the Supreme Sorcerer even intends to pass his position to Li Qingyun. No matter what the reason was for Li Qingyun to refuse, it at least shows one thing, That is, Li Qingyun and the Supreme Sorcerer had at least had a lot of intersections in the past, and maybe the two of them had a relationship close to that of a master and a disciple. No, I don't have the ability to be Li Qingyun's master, Ancient One said, and her words shocked Morgana. This thought only flashed through her mind, but Ancient One was able to sense it. Could it be that she has the ability to read her thoughts? This is not to read the information in your brain, but looking at your expressions and the situation at this time, I can see what you are thinking, Ancient One smiled. She didn't have the ability to directly read other people's thoughts like Li Qingyun, but she had seen and experienced a lot, so she naturally had the ability to observe words and expressions. Oh, that's how it is. Although Morgana didn't live in a chaotic world like Marvel, as a god who has lived for tens of thousands of years, she naturally understands these principles. However, coming from the super god world, she always subconsciously judges in the way of the super god universe. In the super god universe, when meeting for the first time, people will habitually use the eye of insight to read the dark energy information of others to understand the general situation. Whoever has stronger ability will naturally know what others are thinking. Just now, Morgana failed to read the information of the Ancient One, but the Ancient One said what she was thinking, so she subconsciously thought that the Ancient One had a stronger ability to read dark communications than herself. Just like Li Qingyun at the beginning. But now it seems that it doesn't seem to be. Li Qingyun is a special existence after all. He has never appeared in the Super God universe, and it is estimated that he has never appeared in this Marvel universe. The ability to cross two universes and become the pinnacle of two dimensions, can anyone have this ability? I don't want to talk too much about small talk. What do you think about the multiverse? Li Qingyun spoke. He came here today because of Angel Yan and the others, but since he was already here, and Ancient One also mentioned the multiverse, he would take the opportunity to learn about the Supreme Mage's views on this. You brought back more than a dozen people from other worlds at once, which will have a great impact on the universe. The multiverse timeline will probably increase a lot because of your appearance, but the collision of the multiverse will only occur when two universes are connected to each other, so for the time being, it should not happen. Ancient One expressed his opinion, and Li Qingyun, who heard his words, also fell into a brief thought. Chapter 368 Abnormal Fluctuations from the Quantum Realm. The multiverse collision event, in terms of the setting, is indeed a connection between two parallel universes due to some special reasons, so a collision occurs. But some forces transcend the multiverse. In Marvel's setting, there are some levels of division such as single universe level, multiverse level, and omnipotent universe level, which just shows that in the Marvel universe, there are forces that can directly override all multiverses. Although Li Qingyun has not yet made contact with these forces in this world, and has not even really observed their existence, this does not mean that they do not exist. The Celestials, the Observers, and Dormammu are all beyond the scope of a single universe, and their abilities have enabled them to have the ability to enter other universes. What I have done has gone beyond the universe itself, and I think the views put forward by the Observers are also likely to appear, Li Qingyun said. Have you contacted the Cosmic Observers? Guyu was a little surprised. These strange guys hidden in the universe, although they have always been there, they never take the initiative to contact people. In this case, they suddenly appeared and contacted Li Qingyun. It seems that the matter is more serious than she thought. I have contacted them before I left last time. This is the third time, Li Qingyun said, and Guyu was even more surprised after hearing his words. These are the Cosmic Observers who never interfere in the affairs of civilization in the universe. They have contacted Li Qingyun as early as when he just rose. Did it start when you mobilized the energy of the Milky Way stars? Guyu thought about it. This event that may have attracted the attention of the Cosmic Observers to Li Qingyun. Maybe when Li Qingyun mobilized the energy of the stars. After all, although the impact at that time was small, the scope of influence was very wide. This large-scale energy mobilization in the universe is difficult for ordinary people to detect, but the Cosmic Observers can definitely see it, and they must be very clear about what this energy mobilization means. Well, it was not long after that time, Li Qingyun said. Since even the Cosmic Observers have been involved in this matter, I'm afraid this is not a simple matter. Guyu finally looked serious at this time. Although he knew that the purpose of Angel Yan and the others coming here was to understand the multiverse, what they faced at that time was just a possible multiverse problem, and this problem was not so easy to appear under normal circumstances. Because no one on their side was really involved in the multiverse, there was no reason for the two sides to really cause a cosmic collision. But the current situation is that there are already cosmic observers involved, and once these cosmic observers are really involved, it means that this matter is definitely not as simple as it seems on the surface. At the very least, the identity of the cosmic observer alone is enough to attract the attention of many powerful people in the universe, and the things that the cosmic observer said must not be groundless, but should be his guesses based on certain phenomena. Wait, I seem to have something going on. Li Qingyun suddenly raised a hand, which was to signal the people around him to keep quiet for the time being. What happened? Li Qingyun asked. At this moment, he had already connected with someone. The data in the laboratory is confused. We have detected that there may be other civilizations, and this civilization has a very large number of troops, and is trying to attack us. This is the news from the Super Seminary. On the other side of the call is Dr. Pym, who is responsible for the detection of the quantum field. Is it Kang Dynasty? Li Qingyun asked. On the other side of the call, Janet, who had been silent beside Dr. Pym, suddenly shuddered. She actually knew the reason a long time ago, but she had been deliberately avoiding this question, so until now, no one in the Super Seminary knew any news about Conqueror Kang. But now, it seems that this question can no longer be avoided. Li Qingyun's return and his unhesitating mention of the name Kang Dynasty are enough to show that Li Qingyun must have known about Conqueror Kang. Maybe Li Qingyun even knows what she has done in the quantum field. After all, in her understanding of the Super Seminary during this period of time, everyone calls it the most magical and unparalleled god. Those superheroes on Earth, those adventurers in outer space, and even the gods in their myths and legends, all obey Li Qingyun. It seems that even if we don't provoke him, Conqueror Kang will still come to our world. The quantum field can be connected to the multiverse, and there should be the main area where the multiverse collides. Li Qingyun analyzed, and what he said at this moment was exactly what Jennifer was worried about. The biggest secret in Jennifer's heart was finally going to be lost. You order all the people responsible for quantum field research to gather together, and then I will lead you to the quantum field. Some things require you to see them in person to get more information, Li Qingyun said. Yes, I will immediately send a message to all the people in charge of quantum field research in the Super Seminary, and ask them to come and meet up as soon as possible, Dr. Pym answered. Li Qingyun had already turned off the communication. He turned around and just wanted to contact all the other people in charge of this project, but found that Jennifer, who had been standing behind him, had a very wrong expression on her face. What's wrong with you? Dr. Pym looked at Jennifer in confusion. I know what happened in the quantum realm, Jennifer said. She had decided to tell Dr. Pym everything. Anyway, with Li Qingyun's ability, he must have known everything, and he will lead the people here to the quantum realm. After they get there, all these things will still be known. You know, Dr. Pym was a little confused. He suddenly felt that there might be more important information behind this. Yes, I know. I have actually been hiding some very important news, Jennifer said, and then she told Dr. Pym everything from beginning to end. Chapter 369. I'll go check it out personally. Conqueror Kang. Dr. Pym listened to everything Jennifer said about the quantum realm. The most important thing was about Conqueror Kang, about Conqueror Kang's ability to cross the multiverse and master the multiverse timeline. Sure enough, everything is just as I guessed. Li Qingyun's body suddenly appeared in the laboratory of the Super Seminary. At the same time, behind Li Qingyun, Angel Yan, Morgana and others all flew over. And not only the people from the Super Seminary, but also the Supreme Sorcerer of Kamartaj, Ancient One and Doctor Strange came together. This was the first time that their world had a connection with the multiverse, which meant that the world of the multiverse had finally arrived, and they needed to take it seriously no matter what. Lord of Shen, Dr. Pym nodded respectfully to Li Qingyun. Jennifer, who was next to Dr. Pym, lowered her head in embarrassment. She was brought back from the quantum realm by Dr. Pym after Li Qingyun left the Marvel Universe, so she didn't know Li Qingyun and didn't know much about the Super Seminary. Now, facing Li Qingyun for the first time, facing many senior officials in the Super Seminary, she couldn't help but feel a little wary. There's not much you can do now. Next, study with the whole team. Gather everyone's wisdom, and with the help of the big clock, maybe you can go further. Li Qingyun didn't look down on Dr. Pym, but Dr. Pym's knowledge level was only this level. I understand. I have notified everyone else in the research team. They should be on their way now. When they all arrive, I will naturally participate in the subsequent research with them. Dr. Pym also understood that his ability was limited. Even if he had researched the Pym particle, even if he was the first person to study the quantum field, the first person did not mean that he would always be the one who studied the most deeply. Li Qingyun's knowledge and ability exceeded his by thousands of times. In this case, Li Qingyun only needed to master what he had already researched, and he could soon surpass Dr. Pym himself. Well, next I plan to go to the quantum realm in person, and in the process, you will follow Yan's orders. Li Qingyun came here this time, not just to let Dr. Pym do research with the whole team. Since Conqueror Kang has appeared, he should personally meet the time controller of the multiverse. Although Li Qingyun has not yet gone to the time administration to meet the guy who controls the sacred timeline, the exiled Conqueror Kang has to go to talk to him first. Are you going to the quantum realm alone? Jennifer looked at Li Qingyun in disbelief. Yes, I want to go alone. Li Qingyun nodded affirmatively. That won't work. Conqueror Kang has already created a very large civilization in the quantum realm, with a large number of armies. At this time, if you go there alone, no matter how strong you are, I'm afraid you will. Your understanding of power is still very superficial. Li Qingyun interrupted Jennifer. In Li Qingyun's view, a country or a large number of armies are just ants that can be easily dealt with. Li Qingyun can suppress the entire super god universe by himself, and the so-called army of Conqueror Kang is just a robot army created by him with the technology he mastered. If Li Qingyun wants to control such a robot army, he can directly invade through the dark data at the big clock, and perhaps he can complete the control of it. But, okay. Listen to the Lord of Shin. Jennifer wanted to remind Li Qingyun how terrible Conqueror Kang is, but Dr. Pym on the side interrupted her. Jennifer didn't know Li Qingyun's strength, but Dr. Pym knew it very well. This is an existence that can directly destroy Thanos' army and the huge interstellar fleet of the Kree Empire. Moreover, there are many strong people in the Super God Academy. If Li Qingyun really needs to be afraid of something, he can naturally lead a large number of super soldiers and superheroes into it. But Li Qingyun is going there alone, so naturally he has absolute confidence in all this. Yan, you will take over the position of the Lord of the Divine River of the Super God Civilization. Before I come back, all the affairs of the entire civilization will be handed over to you. Li Qingyun turned around and looked at Angel Yan. Let me take over temporarily. Angel Yan was a little surprised. Originally, she thought that Li Qingyun might let the heavenly base King Hizai take charge. After all, Hizai's seniority was older than her. What are you thinking? Li Qingyun gently scratched Angel Yan's nose. He knew that Angel Yan thought that Li Qingyun regarded Hizai as his favorite woman and that Li Qingyun trusted Hizai the most, so he thought that Li Qingyun should let Hizai take charge of everything. But Angel Yan forgot that Hizai only had a relationship with Li Qingyun now, but this relationship was not made public. The real wives of Li Qingyun are the four people in front of him: Angel Yan, Qilin, Wanda and Hela. Among these four people, Angel Yan is naturally the one with the highest seniority and the strongest strength. As for Hizai, Hizai had said long ago that she did not want to make her relationship with Li Qingyun known to everyone. She just wanted to be with Li Qingyun quietly like in the past, studying the mysteries of the universe and watching the stars together. The other things should belong to Angel Yan and the others, so let Angel Yan and the others continue to have them. Okay, I should go. After Li Qingyun finished speaking, he turned around and raised his hand to create a special machine. This machine is a quantum channel that can go to the quantum field. Originally, Dr. Pym had made one himself, and Jennifer was rescued by Dr. Pym using this device. But Li Qingyun felt that what he made might be more stable than what Dr. Pym made, and he could do this kind of thing easily, so he naturally made one directly. Seeing the ability displayed by Li Qingyun, Jennifer on the side was also directly stagnant in place. Create matter out of thin air, and use these substances to directly create quantum channels. She had never thought of this ability before, but now she saw it with her own eyes. She finally understood why people like Dr. Pym value the Lord of the Divine River so much. This was indeed a strong man worthy of their trust. Chapter 370, Changes and Unchanged. Li Qingyun created a quantum channel and walked directly over. There was no need to wear Dr. Pym's uniforms or even Pym particles. Li Qingyun just stood there and instantly entered the quantum realm. Li Qingyun's current divine body, after being covered by the cosmic membrane, already possessed a unique special force. Not to mention entering the quantum realm where the subatomic realm is located, even crossing dimensions is easy. With his unique divine body, Li Qingyun quickly entered the quantum realm. He stood in a special plane and looked around. The eye of insight can't even see the boundary of this quantum realm. It seems that the territory here is not smaller than a universe. Li Qingyun's eye of insight, after he entered the level of the master of the universe, can instantly read the entire soul gem's microcosm. Now he tried to read it here, but found that he couldn't read the boundary at all, which means that the territory of this quantum realm is definitely larger than his soul gem's microcosm. However, it is impossible to judge how big it is. Maybe it exceeds the real universe, but maybe it is just an area slightly larger than the soul gem's universe. After all, no one in the world knows all the secrets of the quantum field. Well, I found a target I need to find on this trip. Li Qingyun turned and looked to the left. When he read the information of the surrounding space just now, he sensed an extremely strong fluctuation of scientific and technological information in that direction. In the quantum field, there should not be many places with such technological means. It is very likely that it is the location of the technological core established by Conqueror Kang. Li Qingyun immediately took a step in that direction. In this special area, Li Qingyun could not use micro-wormholes to transport. It seems that the rules of the universe here have changed due to the influence of the quantum field, so the wormhole algorithm has failed. However, Li Qingyun's flying speed is also very fast. Crossing the universe is nothing for him. In just a few minutes, Li Qingyun has arrived at a special area. Here, there is a large city, and in the city, there are all kinds of extremely high-tech equipment. However, the technology here is not on the hands of humans, but a group of ants. Ant army. Li Qingyun was a little surprised. There had indeed been a civilization built by ants in the quantum realm, but that was in Ant-Man 3. When Kang the Conqueror pulled Ant-Man and his family into the quantum realm through a special quantum device, he also brought the ants into the quantum realm to build a civilization. But now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there is no situation like the original plot. The Ant-Man family has already joined the Super Seminary. Because Thanos did not snap his fingers, the daughter of the second-generation Ant-Man has not grown up yet. How could such an ant civilization suddenly appear in the quantum realm? The multiverse is interconnected. Li Qingyun remembered what the cosmic observer Sakalo said to him. At that time, Li Qingyun had no contact with the multiverse, but Sakalo said that his appearance would cause the entire multiverse to collide. Perhaps, Sakalo had seen some situations that I didn't know at that time. These cosmic observers who have been wandering in the universe for billions of years really can't be underestimated. Li Qingyun sighed in his heart. He originally looked down on these cosmic observers, because from a purely power perspective, Li Qingyun already had the strength to confront them with the strength of the third generation. But now, Li Qingyun has surpassed the fifth generation, and the actual power he possesses is much stronger than the so-called single universe level. Naturally, these cosmic observers seem a little inferior in front of him. But at this moment, Li Qingyun suddenly felt that the cosmic observers might not be as powerful as himself, but they have been able to exist in the universe for billions of years, observing the universe as a bystander for so long, and they may know much more about the mysteries of the universe than he does. Who are you? Suddenly, two huge ants wearing armor appeared in front of Li Qingyun. In this quantum field, the bodies of these two ants are comparable to those of humans like him, and looking at the armor they wear, the communication devices on their heads, and even the strange energy reactions on their bodies. Wow, what a technological ant, Li Qingyun sighed, and he suddenly saw this ant and felt a little fond of it. If he could train such an ant army, it would be easier to do all kinds of things in the early stage. However, in the current situation, the ant army and the mechanical army are not very meaningful to Li Qingyun. Who are you? The two ants asked again, and Li Qingyun finally recovered from his contemplation. Lord of Shen, God of Chaos, Li Qingyun. Li Qingyun said his titles in the two worlds one after another. You can speak the language of our ants? The two ants were shocked. They spoke to Li Qingyun through the communication device on their heads, but what Li Qingyun said at this moment did not need any translation, and they understood it directly. I didn't speak any ant language, I just conveyed my thoughts directly to your hearts, Li Qingyun said again, and his words made the two ants a little sluggish. This directly conveyed their thoughts to their hearts, indicating that the man who came here today was different from the humans they met on weekdays. I'm going to find a guy called Conqueror Kang. Do you know anything about him here? Li Qingyun asked directly. The powerful dragon cannot suppress the local snake. The ant civilization has developed to such a level here, and it must know more about this quantum field than himself. Our king did contact the master, and mention Conqueror Kang in the contact information, but only the king knows the specific situation. The ant answered like this, and Li Qingyun's expression became more solemn when he heard its answer. The master of the ant army. This means that these ants did not enter accidentally, but the situation is not much different from the movie. The normal timeline in the movie seems to have developed into an independent universe. Li Qingyun had such a guess in his mind. Chapter 371 Conquering the Ant Civilization. Under the guidance of the two ants, Li Qingyun soon entered the interior of the ant civilization and came to a huge queen ant. The queen ant was assisted by very advanced equipment, and there were many powerful ants wandering around this huge palace. The reason why these ants are powerful is that the armor on their bodies is more advanced, and the weapons equipped on their armor are also more powerful. Even though they have evolved such a high-level civilization, they are still loyal to Dr. Pym. Is that right? Li Qingyun looked at the queen ant in front of him. Through his insightful eyes, he had read what the queen ant was thinking. Although we have established civilization, the conditions that prompted us to establish civilization were the auxiliary tools configured by the master. Now that we have developed, we should not forget the master's kindness. The queen ant didn't know how Li Qingyun knew his background and what he was thinking, but it still gave its answer truthfully. What a grateful queen ant, what a group of loyal ants. Li Qingyun couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Even in the human world, there are very few people who know how to repay a favor, but these ants actually did it. Even though in their timeline, they have already spent hundreds of years and developed into a powerful and huge civilization, they still remember the help Dr. Pym brought to them. We ants are different from you humans. We don't think too much about benefits, the queen ant replied. Yes, it is because humans think too much about benefits that the development of civilization is full of wars, but your ants can always unite because you have a common idea from beginning to end. Li Qingyun did not just say this casually, but ants are similar to wasps. All of their offspring follow an order to do things, and this order comes from their queen ant. It can be said that if the queen ant thinks this way, then the entire civilization will think this way. Even if the queen ant dies, the next queen ant will be influenced by the previous queen ant and continue to walk the path they have walked before. Because of this unified thought and behavior, ants cannot evolve into civilization in the real world, because they will only follow the mission given to them by nature and reproduce unchanged from generation to generation. But these ants are different from the ants in the real world. They have been transformed by Dr. Pym, and their way of thinking has been affected in the process of transformation. Therefore, when they were transferred to this quantum field with Dr. Pym and his family, they still kept their transformed ideas after they separated from Dr. Pym. They always wanted to return to Dr. Pym and repay their master, so they used all the tools in their hands to create a civilization and continue to strengthen themselves for this goal. This is like the first human who came down from the tree. His behavior changed the development of the entire human race. And the ants, because of Dr. Pym's action, have led to such an evolution today. You are very good, very good. Do you want to join my super seminary and become my subordinates? Li Qingyun admired this group of ants very much. He has decided to bring these ants under his command. We have only one master, the queen ant answered. What if I was originally the master of your master? Li Qingyun asked. What? You are the master of our master? The queen ant was a little shocked. They never knew that Dr. Pym also had a master. You can see for yourself. As Li Qingyun spoke, he raised his hand and created a virtual projection in the air. The scene in the virtual projection was exactly the scene when he was with Dr. Pym. During this period, Dr. Pym was very respectful to him, and Li Qingyun guided Dr. Pym to develop new technologies and so on. In addition, I can take you to find your master who is lost in the quantum field and help him return to the real world. How about it? Li Qingyun knew that it would be difficult to change the queen ant's mind with just a video, but he also knew how to convince them. Can you really help us find our master? The queen ant asked doubtfully. Of course, Li Qingyun answered affirmatively. Well, if you can help us find our master, we will become your subordinates and obey your orders. The queen ant gave her answer directly. As long as they can help their master and repay their master's kindness, they don't care about anything else. Very good, then we have a deal. The moment Li Qingyun spoke, a huge black shadow appeared behind him. and a powerful dark energy information began to spread instantly, and a conceptual information was directly transmitted to the Queen Ant's mind. Modifying other people's parameters and concepts through dark data, even Morgana has this ability, and now Li Qingyun can naturally do it easily. Moreover, Li Qingyun can do it better than Morgana. At this moment, Li Qingyun has already recognized the Queen Ant, so it is natural to use this trick, and he immediately got the Queen Ant's recognition. This idea has been put into the Queen Ant's mind by Li Qingyun in an instant. After that, as long as Li Qingyun successfully finds Dr. Pym who is lost in the quantum field, these ants will join him without hesitation and become a real ant army belonging to him. Just like Thornton, who became his most loyal subordinate after Li Qingyun rewrote his settings. Now, all of you take your equipment and follow me, Li Qingyun said, and at the same time, he had detected the coordinates of the Qing dynasty through the Eye of Insight. Li Qingyun can be sure that this coordinate must be the Qing dynasty, and it can't be any other technological civilization that exists in the quantum field. Because in Li Qingyun's reading, he can clearly read the information about the conqueror Qing. Okay, I'll pass the order and let all the ants start to act. After the Queen Ant finished speaking, the two antennas on its head shook rapidly, and a special communication signal began to be transmitted from its two antennas, reaching every corner of this ant civilization and every ant. As for you, why don't you enter my small universe? It will be difficult for you to walk alone. Li Qingyun looked at the huge body of the Queen Ant. As an ant, even if they have developed an advanced civilization, the Queen's physical condition has not changed much. In order to reproduce, its lower body becomes extremely large. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372 Multiple Entanglements. Afterwards, Li Qingyun successfully received the Queen Ant into his own small universe, and found a habitable planet for them not far from his home planet. This habitable planet will be the permanent residence of the ant army in the future, and the Queen Ant will live here in the future, and its ant army will change into various forms at any time according to Li Qingyun's needs, and appear in the real world to serve Li Qingyun. In order to make the ant army obey his orders, Li Qingyun will naturally retain the communication between the Queen Ant and other ants, through a specially open channel, through dark communication transformation and strengthening, which can be easily achieved. Afterwards, Li Qingyun began to lead a large number of ant armies towards the area where the Qing dynasty was located. This time, Li Qingyun took a little more time. After all, the ant army could not fly as fast as he did. When Li Qingyun arrived at the Qing dynasty at this time did not break out in war like in the movie. The entire Qing dynasty was still very calm, but there were some fluctuations in a special area inside the Qing dynasty. It was a young girl who was trying to escape from prison. Who is it? A group of robots suddenly appeared in front of Li Qingyun. In fact, with Li Qingyun's ability, no one would be able to sense his arrival, but this time Li Qingyun came with the ant army, and the technological capabilities of the ant army were not enough to completely hide from the detection of Conqueror Kang's mechanical Qing dynasty. A group of mechanical puppets, boring. Li Qingyun waved his hand casually, and all the robots in front of him were unable to move, but the detection system in their bodies was still running, which meant that the person in charge of the control at the back could still see everything happening in front. King, come out, the mechanical army you build, and your mechanical fortress, can't stop me, Li Qingyun said, and his words made Conqueror Kang, who was in the core spaceship of the fortress, look gloomy. Where did this person come from? Conqueror Kang didn't know any news about Li Qingyun now, but he was sure that Li Qingyun must be very unusual. In particular, Li Qingyun was accompanied by a large group of ants, all of which were wearing very advanced armor. These were clearly ants built with technology. I come from a universe where you can't appear, and your appearance has affected the world I'm in, so I came to find you, Li Qingyun said so, but his words made Conqueror Kang look confused. How can I affect the universe you are in? Conqueror Kang was shocked, because he realized that Li Qingyun could know what he was thinking at such a long distance. But at the same time, he also reacted quickly. After all, it was from a world 1,000 years later in the Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline, and it was a special existence that could master the power of time. There is no shortage of people in the universe who have the ability to read thoughts. But no matter what ability they have, It is all false in front of his time. As long as Conqueror Kang is willing, he can go back to before that person was born and erase him directly, or send a large number of troops to suppress him at a time when the other party is the weakest. In short, 1,000 years later, the entire universe has long been under his rule, and his Kang dynasty also came from this. Although he has been exiled now and has lost the ability to control time, with his technology, he has created this huge mechanical army, and with the powerful equipment on him, he is not afraid of anyone. Perhaps because of my appearance, the originally independent universe has become two parallel universes, and there is one thing that exists at the same time between these two parallel universes, that is, there is an exiled Conqueror Kang, who has a connection with Jennifer. In the process of trying to find Jennifer, the signal you sent was read by the world I am in, which led to my arrival. In this case, it seems that my action this time has caused the connection between the two worlds. At this moment, Li Qingyun suddenly realized that if he didn't come, there might not be a situation of mutual connection. Because now Dr. Pim's family in another universe is in this quantum field, then the normal development should be that they will join forces to defeat Conqueror Kang. But now, Li Qingyun has come, and directly controlled the entire ant army. Two movie universes have appeared. Li Qingyun thought so in his heart. He can be sure that the appearance of these two universes has changed from the moment Li Qingyun crossed over, and in the other movie universe, everything is carried out as it develops in the movie. Now the timeline of that universe should have developed to 5 years after Thanos snapped his fingers, which is the plot of Ant-Man 3. But if I don't show up, maybe later, after Wanda in the original timeline of the movie universe is corrupted by the Dark Book, it is very likely to affect the universe I am in now. Li Qingyun thought of the plot on Doctor Strange 2, and thought of Wanda's gradual darkening after her illusion was shattered. From the moment he crossed over, a new parallel universe has been created. Perhaps the reason for the collision between the two parallel universes is precisely because of the reminder of the Cosmic Observer. Otherwise, Li Qingyun might not have noticed the situation in the quantum realm and the multiverse so quickly. Without the second-generation Ant-Man's daughter to create a quantum realm locator, Conqueror Kang would not directly find Dr. Pym in his universe. In the movie, the Ant-Man family in the original timeline would defeat Conqueror Kang, and the signals sent by Conqueror Kang to other worlds outside the quantum realm would soon disappear. Naturally, Li Qingyun would not appear here at this moment. The flapping of a butterfly's wings will affect the entire future. Socorro thought he was preventing the multiverse from contacting, but he didn't expect that he himself had created the beginning of this contact. This is really a trick of fate. Li Qingyun figured out everything and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. But no matter whether it was caused by Socorro or not, all of this has already happened, so he can only deal with it according to what is happening now and according to his own ideas. Whether it will be good or bad in the future, that is a matter for the future, who can say for sure. Chapter 373 solved. So, are you from another universe? Conqueror Kang didn't know what Li Qingyun was thinking. He just heard what Li Qingyun just said, and then realized that Li Qingyun might be from another universe that was related to Jennifer. Yes, Li Qingyun replied. Since you are from another world, what are you doing here? Conqueror Kang now only wants to find Jennifer and restore the damaged time energy device. Without energy transfer, Conqueror Kang can't achieve time travel even if he has mastered these technologies. If he can't time travel, he can't even leave this quantum realm. In this case, it doesn't matter to him whether you are from another universe or someone from another timeline. I originally just wanted to come in and see what the situation is, but now I have decided to eliminate you. After Li Qingyun finished speaking, he raised his right hand, and the robots controlled by him exploded instantly. Then, Li Qingyun looked forward, looking at the huge mechanical army base. As far as he could see, all the robots lost their control systems in an instant, and all the robots stayed where they were and could no longer move. Queen Ant, let your people destroy all the robots, Li Qingyun said, and as his message was conveyed, the Queen Ant immediately converted the message into an order, asking all the ants to follow Li Qingyun's instructions. In an instant, the entire mechanical fortress, under the control of Li Qingyun, was completely destroyed at a speed of crushing withering and rotten wood under the attack of countless ants. At the same time, outside the mechanical fortress, a large number of rebels and the Ant-Man family suddenly discovered what was happening in the mechanical fortress. They saw many ants, and saw that these ants were destroying the castle quickly as if no one was stopping them. Dr. Pym was among these onlookers, and at this time, he also knew that these ants were the descendants of those he had cultivated. Dr. Pym quickly walked towards Li Qingyun, because he learned some of their situations during the communication with the ants, and knew that there was a very powerful person from another parallel universe. When he finally arrived, he was a little confused when he saw Li Qingyun. "Who are you?" Dr. Pym asked. He came from the movie universe of the normal timeline, and Li Qingyun belonged to the original movie universe, so Dr. Pym did not know Li Qingyun. "Li Qingyun, from a special parallel universe," Li Qingyun answered. Hearing what Li Qingyun said, Dr. Pym was still confused and even more confused. He felt a very strong aura on Li Qingyun's body, which was even stronger than those strong men of the Avengers he had seen before, such as Captain Marvel and Thor. It felt that this man was beyond his imagination. "How did you enter this quantum realm? You don't seem to be a creature of this world," Dr. Pym asked again. "You can come in. I come from another world." "Is it strange that I have the ability to come in?" Li Qingyun asked back. "It's not surprising. After going through so much, it's not surprising to see anything happen now," Dr. Pym said. It's not that he couldn't accept the existence of a person like Li Qingyun. What he really wanted to know was why Li Qingyun could control these ants. These were all ants he had cultivated. Why did they obey Li Qingyun, a stranger, now? "Well, in your timeline, you superheroes have indeed experienced a lot," Li Qingyun nodded, and did not deny Dr. Pym's statement. In his timeline, because of his appearance, all superheroes can be said to be happy. The biggest crisis was resolved by Li Qingyun, and all those who would have lost their loved ones kept what they wanted to protect the most. "Go find your family, and then I will give you Pym particles and coordinates, so that you can return to your original world. As for Conqueror Kang and his mechanical empire, I will deal with it." Li Qingyun waved his hand to let Dr. Pym do what he was supposed to do. Li Qingyun continued to move towards the mechanical fortress, bringing his huge army of ants to destroy everything inside. Those robots that were immobilized and unable to move were just like some clay statues. They would be completely destroyed if the ants casually swung their weapons and hit them a few times. Dr. Pym looked at all this and felt that his worldview was collapsing rapidly. Li Qingyun's strength was beyond his imagination. But fortunately, Li Qingyun was not on the opposite side of him, and was willing to help him. Soon, the mechanical kingdom collapsed completely. Li Qingyun had come to the center of the castle, which looked like the core of a building, but was actually a huge spaceship. Conqueror Kang walked out of it. He was wearing his powerful uniform at this moment. This was the uniform that allowed him to still have the upper hand when facing the attacks of Ant-Man and the Resistance in the movie, and was finally destroyed by the gnawing of many ants. "Do you think you can be my enemy just because you can manipulate electronic data? I am a person from 1,000 years later, with technological capabilities far beyond yours." Conqueror Kang still looked a little unconvinced. At this moment, he still felt that he was the high and mighty conqueror. "Technology? You're talking about technology in front of me," Li Qingyun laughed. This Conqueror Kang actually said that his technology was so advanced. Isn't this nonsense? Perhaps in his original setting, in his original timeline, the technological capabilities he mastered were indeed very powerful, but in front of Li Qingyun, these so-called technological capabilities were so backward. Pick out any super soldier of more than 3 generations in the Super God universe, and his technological capabilities can directly beat him. "You dare to look down on me?" Conqueror Kang questioned angrily. "This sentence should be said by me." After Li Qingyun finished speaking, he pointed forward again, and a powerful energy in the void directly crushed Conqueror Kang. The protective shield he created with his uniform was shattered in an instant, and all his abilities were completely destroyed under the energy attack launched by Li Qingyun. Conqueror Kang, he was not even as good as a child in front of Li Qingyun, and he was the kind that could be manipulated by Li Qingyun at will. Chapter 374 The initial contact between the two universes. Conqueror Kang, at least a Conqueror Kang who appeared in front of him, in Li Qingyun's eyes, was really vulnerable. Getting rid of him and destroying the entire mechanical dynasty was just something that Li Qingyun could easily handle. Now he went directly to the place where Conqueror Kang's time energy was located. At this moment, here, the second-generation Ant-Man Scott Lang had restored the time energy to its normal size. Li Qingyun just waved his hand casually and took the time energy over. The Eye of Insight observed all the information in it. Where did this time energy come from, how Conqueror Kang controlled it, and used this energy to achieve time travel, all of which were clearly read by him. Li Qingyun, who already had the ability to travel through time and space. Time was no longer mysterious in front of him, so he easily saw everything and understood everything. Who are you? Why do you want to steal my things? Scott Lang looked at Li Qingyun blankly. He thought that after he succeeded, Conqueror Kang would come to take this thing, and even thought that Conqueror Kang would not abide by the agreement between them and take this thing but not return his daughter to him. But now, the situation is completely different. It was Li Qingyun who suddenly appeared and snatched the time energy. When you were looking for the time energy, did you see a version of yourself from the super god civilization? Li Qingyun asked. He still remembered that when Scott Lang restored the time energy to its normal size, when he approached the core of the energy device, countless versions of himself from different parallel universes appeared. In the end, with the joint efforts of these countless variations of him, he finally completed this difficult task. And now, Li Qingyun is very curious whether Scott Lang met the Scott Lang from his universe at that time. Super God civilization? Are you the Lord of Shen? Scott Lang looked at Li Qingyun in shock at this moment. However, his question shocked Li Qingyun. It seems that you did meet Scott Lang from my world, and it seems that he told you a lot of things. Li Qingyun's guess was correct. The world he was in was regarded as one of the countless multiverses and a variant of it. However, the final development of this variant, because of its own relationship, surpassed all other parallel universes in the entire Marvel universe. He only told me that if I couldn't save my daughter, I could try to send a distress signal to the outside world. He said that their god, the so-called Lord of Shen, would definitely receive this distress signal. He also said that the Lord of Shen has incomparable power, and he can definitely help me save my daughter. Scott Lang said so, and at this moment, he was judging whether Li Qingyun was the Lord of Shen. Conqueror Kang is dead, and his mechanical empire has been completely destroyed. You can now go find your own daughter, Li Qingyun said. Really? Scott Lang was very excited. I have asked Dr. Pym to find her, and I have also given Dr. Pym the coordinate information for you to return to your original world. When you reunite, you can naturally go back. After Li Qingyun finished speaking, he took the time energy device and turned away. Scott Lang originally wanted to ask more questions, but seeing that Li Qingyun flew away like this, he couldn't say the questions on his lips. He just lowered his head and bowed sincerely in the direction where Li Qingyun flew away, thanking Li Qingyun for helping to save his daughter. After leaving, Li Qingyun took all the ants back into the small universe and let them return to the planet where the queen ant was. Then he directly opened the channel and returned to the real world. Back to the laboratory of the Super God Academy. When Li Qingyun appeared again, everyone looked over. Lord of Shen, everyone saluted. How long have I been away? Li Qingyun asked. Just half a day, Dr. Pym stepped forward and answered. It seems that the time I spent in the quantum field is basically the same as the time outside. When Li Qingyun came out, he did not deliberately adjust the time, that is, he did not adjust the timeline back to the moment he just entered the quantum field. Therefore, as long as it is not deliberately controlled by oneself, the time to enter and exit the quantum field should be the time you spend inside, and the time you spend outside when you come out. Well, you continue with the follow-up research. The quantum field, as a special channel that can connect a multiverse, may be of great significance to our future development. Li Qingyun nodded and then ordered. Yes, we will do our best to do it, the researchers around all answered seriously. The previous super seminary was mainly responsible for the research of chaos magic and super gene fusion, the combination of reality gems and void controllers, and the research of dimensional space. The resources of the entire super seminary were almost all invested in those major projects. They were studying the quantum field, but they were a little neglected. Now Li Qingyun's words mean that it is time for their research on the quantum field to begin to explode. There will definitely be more resources tilted towards them in the future. Maybe some top scientific research talents who were responsible for researching other projects before will also join their ranks. For example, Tony Stark, Bruce Banner and others. Li Qingyun didn't care what these people thought. He took a step and disappeared from the laboratory and returned directly to the castle hall. At the same time, the news of his return was immediately passed to others. Naturally, nothing would happen in a short period of time, but Xian Qian and the others were still very concerned about what happened between Li Qingyun and Izai. Now that they knew Li Qingyun was back, they came over as soon as possible. However, this time they were not the only ones. The three little guys also came, which was specifically instructed by Li Qingyun. Dad, a coquettish voice came, and Zhao King and Xiaoyan rushed directly towards Li Qingyun. Even Xianxia moved faster when walking. After all, they were still children. Seeing their father come back, they must want to come over and act like a spoiled child. Li Qingyun did not favor one over the other. He hugged each of the three little ones and then gently put them down. In the following time, he played with the three little ones, and played with their mothers in the evening. He comforted these relatives very much. Chapter 375, The Unusual Movement of the God Group. After a night's rest, everything seemed to have returned to its old state. However, things about the multiverse and quantum field have gradually become the core of the research of the entire super seminary. Originally, the research on the expansion of the entire universe was horizontal, which belonged to conventional scientific and technological research and civilization development. But now, the super seminary is a vertical research, and the research direction is biased towards the field of time and the multiverse. Lord Shen, we have recently detected that the actions of the Celestials are becoming more and more active on Earth. Do you want to prepare a response plan in advance? Stark came to Li Qingyun. In the past 2 years, with the help of the huge organization of the Super Seminary, they have also learned about the situation on Earth. Naturally, they have also detected the existence of the Celestials and the Eternals. In fact, they have already had contact with the Eternals. If they had not seen that they had helped the human beings on Earth many times in the past history, the Super Seminary would not have let them go until now. The Celestials have begun to move. Li Qingyun raised his head and looked at Stark, who came to report at this time. As early as after Li Qingyun established a super god civilization, the population growth rate of the Earth had actually slowed down. Because of the awareness of the problem of overpopulation on Earth and the lack of a large number of laborers with modern knowledge on other life planets, a large number of people on Earth began to migrate to other planets for a long time. Therefore, the current population on Earth has always remained at the same level as that of the year. The Celestials need to rely on the life energy provided by the population to breed. If the population does not increase, it will naturally be difficult for the Celestials to hatch. So after Li Qingyun came back, he never paid much attention to the Celestials. But now Stark reported that he actually began to move. The life energy needed by the Celestials is not the peak at a certain time, but the long-term accumulation of life. This is the conclusion drawn by the big clock after recent analysis, Stark reminded. He knew that if Li Qingyun wanted to know, he would definitely know it easily. But now Li Qingyun has just been away for more than 2 years. After returning, he has focused more on other places because of the multiverse, and his attention to the Celestials will inevitably decrease. That makes sense, Li Qingyun nodded, and at the same time, he began to contact the big clock in his mind. Transfer the energy accumulated in the altars I built on other life planets in the past 2 years to my body. Li Qingyun had built altars to collect life energy on more than 50 life planets a long time ago, and from time to time he directly converted the energy absorbed from these altars into the energy in his body. But after Li Qingyun's strength reached a certain level, he no longer paid much attention to these energies, so after he came back, he did not convert these energies. Now Stark's reminder just reminded him of these energies. With the operation of the big clock, all the energy in these altars instantly began to be transmitted through the dark data network of the big clock. In just a few seconds, Li Qingyun felt that a very huge energy appeared in his body, which even exceeded the power of a super soldier with a third-generation divine body. What a huge energy! Is this just the life energy accumulated in the altars in the past 2 years? Li Qingyun asked in surprise. Yes, this is the life energy accumulated in all the altars in 2 years, the big clock replied. No wonder the power of the celestial gods is so strong. They have been continuously obtaining life energy from the intelligent life on a planet for millions of years. The accumulated energy can be easily released, which is a planetary-level existence, Li Qingyun said with emotion. The life energy you have obtained is produced by more than tens of billions of people on 50 life planets. The amount produced is far greater than that of a single life planet in thousands of years. Moreover, the altar's absorption and conversion efficiency of life energy is actually higher than that of the celestial gods. Otherwise, with only 2 years of absorption efficiency, it would be impossible for the celestial gods to have such a huge amount, the big clock explained, and Li Qingyun just nodded in approval after hearing his explanation. The altar he made does have a more efficient absorption and conversion ability. After all, this is the most reasonable and optimal absorption plan designed by the big clock after analysis. Do you have a plan to deal with it? Stark asked. Although he didn't know what Li Qingyun and the Big Clock were doing, he had been in the Super God Academy for such a long time that he could still see that Li Qingyun must have discussed relevant matters with the Big Clock during the silent time. The existence of the Celestial Group is still a hidden danger to the Earth. We didn't move it before because it was not necessary. Now that it has begun to move, let's destroy it. Li Qingyun no longer has to be afraid of the Celestial Group. Before he left, they already had the ability to compete with the Celestial Group. Now it is much stronger than before. It is very easy to deal with one or two Celestial Groups. Even dealing with a large group of Celestial Groups is easy. What's more, in the current Super God universe, not only he is the only one who has the power to fight against the Celestial Group, but also the super soldiers who followed him and the superheroes cultivated in the Super God Academy over the years. There are also several people who can compete with him. You want to kill the Celestial Group? Stark looked at Li Qingyun in shock. It's not like we haven't killed them before, so why are you making such a fuss? Li Qingyun didn't care about Stark's shock. In order to collect the Celestial Group's factors, it had attacked the Celestial Group, and later even destroyed several planets with Celestial Group seeds in the universe. However, in order not to directly provoke a war between the Celestial Group and itself, it used some special means to conceal its true intentions. But now, this cover-up is no longer necessary. He can also directly attack the Celestial Group on Earth. If we kill the Celestial Group without destroying the planet, I'm afraid other Celestial Groups will not stand idly by, Stark reminded. Before, when Li Qingyun killed the Celestial Group, he directly destroyed the entire planet. For the Celestial Group, it was just a natural phenomenon caused by the wars between civilizations and the struggles between life that would break out from time to time in the universe. So they would not intervene. But now Li Qingyun wants to kill the Celestial Group on Earth, but he will definitely not destroy the Earth itself. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.